I kind of gave him a lecture.
Yeah.
So guess what? I just clicked live because this is
we're live! Oh my God!
this is just a impromptu stream. We're here. What is it? March 31st, 2020. We're all locked down in quarantine. So I just decided to start the stream here because we got no plan here. We're just hanging out. We're chilling. Everyone looks great except for me. Rebecca's dressed up as a flapper, I guess. Really looking great. And Heidi is dressed up as a super mom because she's been a super mom for a couple weeks now. So would you ladies like to introduce yourself? I guess we'll start with Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, John. I'm good. Hi, everyone. This is Rebecca, also known as Shadowcat Bex. And happy Quaranstream, everyone.
Quaranstream. I did not come up with that. I saw it on a few other streams. I think it's a catchy little title, but yeah, that's what this is. This is a Quaranstream. If you're sitting there on the couch with your phone, if you're on your desktop, you just need someone to hang out with. We are the Creatives Guild, and we're happy to be here. And our third member, well, I'm John. That was Rebecca. Our third member is Heidi. How you doing, Heidi?
Hi, I'm great. I just wanted to say hello to everyone and point out that I did try to bring in the toilet paper. So I added some toilet paper roll streamers, and I've got some toilet paper here. John, Rebecca and John were asking me if I'm. Oh, there you go. You see, I have got a.
Oh, I'll zoom right in there for you.
Toilet paper garland. So I'm doing really well. Actually, now it's funny because I just watched. What's that movie about where everyone, it's like a singing challenge, and Rebecca, you'll know what it is.
American Idol? Is it the X Factor?
It's like American Idol, but it's a movie. It's like a group of a cappella singers from high school. And there's an MC, and her name is, I can't remember what her name is, but her co-host is named John, and she's always like, "Over to you, John."
So I wanted to do that every time.
I'm going to say that from now on.
And over to you, John. Well, because I don't even have anything planned. You know, folks, the Creatives Guild, we usually have these awesome presentations and these slideshows and these notes. But tonight we have nothing planned. But I'm sure we're still going to pull it off because we're just hanging out. And we haven't done something in a couple months. We usually try to put something out once in a while. Our past couple streams have been something different, actually. We've just been talking about movies and Halloween and stuff, but we kind of met in the Game of Thrones community and kind of the sci-fi, TV, film TV, fantasy world. So we got some great folks here, some people already showing up in the chat. We got a good kind of small crew that always loves hanging out with us, so it's good to see everyone apparently human. Hope you're doing well. Hope I see you're also doing some live streams and hangouts like this as well during this time. So thanks for coming, and everybody that's in the chat and all that. We love you guys. We love you supporting us. Our last stream was almost 4 hours. That was freaking crazy. And then the one before that was 3 hours, and we do these 2-hour streams. So we just go off, but we got nothing planned. But it is, like I said, I shouted the date out there just because I just wanted to leave it in history. It's March 31st, 2020, and we are here in the middle of it. I mean, I'm kind of home most of the day. I think a lot of us are home a lot of the day. Maybe it wasn't a big change for us, but people in the chat, how have things been going? Obviously with the virus and however you want to term it, lockdown, quarantine, shelter in place, stay at home. How's everything going? Did anybody's business have to close or anything like that, or are you adapting? Or I hope everyone's doing well, and if anybody has any family members that are sick, we're sorry about that. But we just put this Quaranstream together. I just flashed the graphic. Wanted to show you this cool little thumbnail we did here because this is what we're all about here. We're just three people that just hang out. We're a composer, an editor, and a costume person, and we talk about whatever. But we're here during the quarantine times. And we're going to preserve this in history. We're going to etch this stream in stone forever. We're going to tell our grandkids about this stream. I remember when I streamed in the middle of the pandemic. Just kidding. But seriously, I love hanging out with you two. It's like really awesome. This is what we're all about. Just hanging out, the three of us and everyone in the chat, talking about whatever. Sorry,
I had to run away for a second. My cat was clawing at the door. I had to let him in.
Oh, it's cool. I was just, as I usually do, I was just buttering you two up. I like to butter you both up in the beginning of the stream and talk about how awesome you are. But I'm happy at the little thing we have here. We just want to keep growing, guys, and just appreciate everybody. I love you all. You know, when times like this happen, you know, you kind of rethink about what's important in life, and you know, family and friends are important, and you know, digital friends are also very important part of life these days too. So you know, you both have been great, and everybody in the chat's been great. Everybody in the Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, Marvel, whatever fandom you're part of, you know, we can talk about anything online now. It's freaking awesome, and even now, even more. So we're here. We're gonna chat about whatever. I've been watching some shows. I'll probably talk about that. We've been talking about some shows. We can talk about the awesome costumes that the ladies are wearing tonight. We could talk about whatever. The ladies are drinking a little bit. I'm drinking a little bit.
Well, you're having a coffee right now, aren't you?
Well, I didn't have to divulge that. You know, I could have played along for a little bit. I could have said it was whiskey or something, but the cat's out of the bag. I'm drinking coffee. Rebecca, what are you drinking there?
I am drinking sparkling rosé.
Beautiful. I love your glass. Actually, it reminds me of, I was just watching Westworld on Sunday, and she had a glass like that. Rebecca, I don't think you watched that show, but she had a lovely little martini glass like that.
Well, these are the cocktail glasses. This is my grandmother's crystal from her second marriage.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
They're a little bit shorter, right? Like, you know, you see the modern contemporary ones, they tend to have a longer stem. That one's got a little bit of I love it.
Yeah.
And
then I have
terrific.
glasses that are in the same style.
So what should we talk about, y'all?
Yeah.
No, I just had to stretch my joints because I'm barely moving now. You know, I usually try to go to the gym. You know, I've been on a little bit of this diet here. I'm kind of falling short a little bit. You know, my joints are aching. I'm kind of falling asleep on the couch. I'm taking naps. No, but you know, it's just been weird. I mean, it's been a big change. I live in, well, Rebecca and I both live in the Northeast U.S., so it's pretty intense up here. And I went to the grocery store earlier, you know, and they got the plexiglass and everything. So it's just weird, but like my body's aching. It's like I just want to go to the gym or something. But
yeah, I know.
It's cool.
I had the same thing. I went out yesterday for a walk. Like I was like, I got to get out of the house, right? So I went out for a walk. And I got like maybe a block, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here? Like my hip is killing me. And I realized this because I've been sitting for a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. I've noticed I'm sitting and my body has been, you know, cooped up. So it's actually my birthday tomorrow. So I got some early birthday presents.
Happy birthday, John.
Thanks. I'm really excited, but it's kind of a really weird time. But I got an early birthday gift, and my mother, who I love very much, got me this back support thing. And I've been on my chair, and I've been using that, and I'm feeling really good. And I use this thing for my wrist sometimes, like this little thing right here. Yeah, this little gel thing. So just the ergonomic stuff helps. But when you're just sitting around stuck in for like 14, 15, 16 days, it just, your body like crumbles down. So I'm doing my best, but I've been working. This is a busy season for me. Go out and have Double P Media. This guy's pretty funny. I got to say, welcome to the stream, or gal. I don't know who this is, but I think this is a first time.
I'm pretty sure that might be Bubba.
Hey, Bubba, what's up, Double P?
It might be Bubba. There are a few guys from Double P, but I'm very familiar with the Double P Media guys.
We could use a few witty comments. Yeah, go out and have a drink. I usually go out with a few friends and hang out. Whoops, there goes my camera.
Uh-oh.
No,
we're getting it. I was going to tell you, my friend, or like one of my colleagues.
We're so professional tonight.
One of my colleagues, Elan, might pop in. I was telling him how we use StreamYard, and he was kind of curious to see what that looked like. So I said, oh, we should pop in the stream and have a check. He's a video creator. Like he does, you know, for a living, he does that.
Yeah, bring him in. Check out some of our old videos. We usually have, like I said, some cool presentations. We like to talk about, you know, Game of Thrones and movies and stuff like that. We're all, you know, three specialists basically, and I'm a music composer. I write music. Rebecca does editing, and Heidi is a costumer, and we all focus on cinematography. So yeah, you know, always check out what we're doing. We're just chilling tonight, as you see.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Elaine.
My camera's falling apart. Hey, Elaine, welcome.
It's Alan.
Sorry about that. Yes. Welcome, brother.
Alan Barron. Yeah, there he is.
All right.
Hello, handsome.
Yeah, great picture.
He is such a wonderful person. I've been talking with him and I said, I really enjoy talking with you during the day, like with my day job, because he always is so fun and upbeat, and he's got a wonderful spirit. So it always makes me feel good, So we're working on a video for one of our clients, one of my clients. So he's doing that for us. So it's corporate stuff, but that's what I do during the day.
Yeah, it's just so interesting how several other day jobs are moving indoors and people are teleworking and telecommuting. And, the other day, because I live in Connecticut, we have a lot of big insurance companies around here. So I was just driving in the beginning of this stuff, and you see the workers walking out with the boxes and their computers because everyone's just working from home. And how is that working out? I mean, Heidi, is that usually how your company operates from home? Is it more efficient?
I work from home already. I don't know if Rebecca does, but I have a home setup. Like, actually, I used to just kind of work off of like my laptop, but now I actually have a professional setup at home. I have a computer, 2 monitors, a proper desk, a printer. I actually I'm pretty happy with it, and I put it near a window, so I'm near a window. And I work like a 9-to-5 job, like everybody else. It's just I work from home. But the company I work for right now, everyone is working from home, remote working.
Like everybody else. I love that.
Yeah, or not
like
everybody else. But.
Like all the normal people, Mom. I have a normal. No, I'm kidding. Same thing with me. I just work. I work from my house. I put a window in right to my right. That's probably that black curtain.
It helps, right?
Expand the view. Yeah, I actually put it myself. It does help, especially in the nicer weather. I get some fresh air. I could open this curtain. That really helps. And Rebecca has a cat. Sometimes a living creature helps.
Is very jealous of attention being spent elsewhere right now. Yeah, she's my assistant editor right now, and she's terrible. I'd like to fire her. But yeah, no, we're working. We're now remoting into our computers at our facility because I'm currently working on a multicam show for True TV, and we have like a 12 camera feed going in that are all grouped together. So putting everything on hard drives is a little, it's asking a lot, especially with the short notice that we had. And so we're actually remoting into our computers, which are remote or connected to, our Unity system it's been all right,
Yeah, there's definitely some challenges.
Yeah, I kind of, I'm used to going in and seeing people every day. And now we're doing daily video calls, and it's the same with this. Penelope.
Are you using Zoom? It seems like Zoom is what
we're using like Google stuff for work. But yeah, no, I've been doing a lot of Zoom stuff, so with my friends.
Yeah, humble brag. Rebecca just dropped that. She's working on a True TV series. You just dropped that out of nowhere.
We are so happy for her.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's Hot Ones, the game show. If anyone's familiar with the Hot Ones YouTube series, it is based on that, but it is nothing like that. It's basically people eat hot wings to win money. So
that's very.
It is the dumbest show I've ever worked on, but it's way funnier than I thought it was going to be. So
but it's funny. In one of the communities that I'm in, it's a YouTube creator community. There's a lot of creative people in there. And some people were saying, "Oh, I feel so bad. Like I'm creating stuff like just about sewing or about makeup or and I don't feel that I'm really helping in any way." And I'm like, are you kidding? I mean, you're providing content for people to entertain them, especially during these times. I think it's super helpful. And like if you can like get lost in a reality show and just be able to give your brain and your soul a little bit of a break, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think that's why some of the shows like Tiger King and so on have done so well recently. I think, Rebecca, you're going to talk about that show.
I am going to talk about Tiger King.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody's seen it already. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
That's like the big move, right?
I did watch The Favorite last night. So upon both of your recommendations, I've had it on my list for ages, Rebecca. You know that. Yeah. And I actually wanted to ask you some things about that after, if we get into that one.
Have to shout out Sontavia, who just showed up, one of our, of course, regulars. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a good core group of people that have basically been supporting us from the beginning. I love our channel because we have like 50 subscribers and then we have like 50 views. So it's like the small group we have, they're watching our shit. So I love you guys. It's a small group. Let's get up to 100, and you guys will be the original crew. Let's get up to 500,000. But Sontavia's been there like since day one. She actually helped us with the name, and we got to get some perks for these folks.
We should make her a mod, like give her a hammer.
Yeah.
We can make her a mod, and she could be in charge of keeping the peace. Well, you know, honestly, right now we have such a lovely group. But I was in a live stream recently, and it's the creator, like it was very small, but then suddenly he kind of got quite big. And the amount of spam he was getting, but he didn't have any mods. And I was like, oh, it would have been good if he, you know, ahead of time made a few mods. So he's now done it. But
yeah, you used to have people up as mods, and that went away at some point.
I had that on the John Del Vento channel on our own.
This is our
dedicated.
I could
do that now. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Yeah, I could. Let me.
Hey, Graham.
Let me do that, Sontavia. You'll be our
Graham
first
mod. Cousin Graham.
Is that your cousin?
It's my cousin. He is also
Graham.
Cousin Graham.
Hey, everyone's welcome to hang out here during the quarantine.
You're all right with me then.
Three weird people, but we gel together and we could just talk for hours about stuff. But so you've seen the Tiger King, Rebecca? Have you seen it, Heidi?
No, I've heard everyone's been talking about it though.
Yeah,
well, I don't want to spoil it because I guess nowadays you could just watch a whole show in one sitting. It's released one day and then the whole thing's out already, right?
Well, yes, the whole thing's out. And I can like talk about some things about it without actually spoiling the big points. So it's basically, for those that haven't seen it, focuses on a man named Joe Exotic, and he was running a private zoo in Oklahoma. Joe is a redneck, gun-toting, mullet gay man in Oklahoma who, his zoo had hundreds of animals, like focusing on big cats. And so he is basically at war with a lady named Carol Baskin, and she runs a nonprofit rescue group, which apparently rescues the animals from zoos and roadside circuses like Joe's that usually get rid of the animals when they become too old to be passed around and played with as cubs. But even her, she's also a character in and of herself. But like Joe ran for governor, or he ran for president. He ran for governor of Oklahoma, and now he is currently in jail. And this is not a spoiler, like you find this out right away, but he's in jail for plotting a murder to hire scheme to kill this woman, Carol Baskin. So that's like kind of the general premise, but it is 7 episodes of it's just, every time you're like, this can't get any crazier, it gets crazier, just non-stop. And it's interesting because they state this in the beginning, like the director of this series, like the series was like 5+ years in the making. He was doing some other piece about like an exotic animal trade, and then he ran into a guy who had just personally bought like a white tiger cub, and then it led him to this other guy, and then led him to this guy, and then finally led him to Joe, and then everything like took off. And they follow. So a lot of the events that happened were happening while they were filming this series. So it's good. It's definitely more style over substance. The characters are the focal point. And I was squeamish about it because I didn't want to see animal abuse. I didn't want to glorify some guy who, or multiple people who are clearly abusing animals. But it's the animal abuse isn't over the top. I mean, like, you don't see actual physical abuse and, whatever your definition of abuse is. But
I mean, there's so many like memes out about it, and like it seems like to me when I just saw the reactions, it seemed like it was like a comedy. Is it like a comedy? Is it just like it's so ridiculous? Like I'm thinking like Duck Dynasty when that came out, or like Amish Mafia. Like it just highlighted a culture that's so ridiculous, but it's almost sad. Deep down, it's sad, but we're laughing at them. Are we laughing with them? Is it something like that?
Yeah, it's definitely it is. If it were a movie, it would definitely be a dark comedy. Like, these are, larger than life, real people, real characters that you can't stop watching. And even one of the ladies from I guess the Oklahoma City news affiliate that was very familiar with Joe Exotic, she's like, you can't stop. Like, it's a train wreck that you can never stop.
Welcome, Peter Griffin. Peter Griffin has a thought here. Three things are known: death, taxes, and Carol killed her husband.
Yep. And yeah, Carol definitely killed her husband. But again, thanks for the spoilers, Peter. But that meme's all over the place at this point. Although
is that Carol from the Tiger King?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that is a real life crime.
Yeah. Nothing has been proven about anything.
So is it a documentary?
Yeah, it's in the documentary. So that's like, the end of the second episode is like then this accusation that like she killed her husband. And so that's the whole third episode. And it's just one of like the turns, and every turn is just, it's amazing. And like, the amount of having 5 years worth of footage it's an incredible feat. It's very well done. It feels a little at times feels a little bit like a reality show, but it's beautifully shot. So
what I found surprising, I mean, I haven't seen it, but that we didn't hear anything leading up to it. It just sort of dropped on Netflix, and then we're talking about it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That's how TV is now. Like, it's not like wait a week, wait a year. It's like, I heard about this show a week ago on Twitter, and then now all the episodes are out. Now I'm supposed to like log in and watch them all. Like, I'm just getting used to, maybe I'm a little old school like that. I'm just getting used to that way of consuming media. Like, it came out of nowhere. And I mean, I get, is that, I mean, do they still make money that way? I mean, is that like...
Well, no one knows if Netflix is making any money. They won't release their numbers. So there's no telling.
Me, I work on even I work on very small TV shows, reality shows like we've been talking about. And just like you, Rebecca, the thing that supports these shows is the weekly episodic consistency. I mean, that's how the money comes in. So I'm wondering, how do these series just get dumped out on Netflix in a week, and now it's like a thing? Is that how you develop a fandom? Is that how, or are they meant to just be these little like docudramas like that Aaron Hernandez thing, or these little short, or that Wild Wild West thing? Or are they meant to just be released as these 4, 5, 6-part bursts and then just fizzle away into nothingness? But the big thing is, are they making money?
That's a good question. I don't.
Yeah, everybody's.
Well, they obviously closely monitor it, because Netflix is really big, hard with a hammer. Like, they'll cut a show after 2 or 3 seasons, and that'll be it. No ands, if or buts about it.
Hey, Tulkas, how's it going? Everybody seems to be strolling in. We appreciate you guys coming in and chilling with the Creatives Guild.
They're asking for having a speakeasy, John.
The speakeasy. Well, you can ask Rebecca about that.
Because of Rebecca, yeah. I'm not dressed in 20s. I'm actually kind of dressed in 1990s, I think. And if anyone's wondering why I have a headband on, it's because I haven't been out to get hair color, and my spray color is empty.
This is Tiger King Tulkas. We have no topic tonight. We're talking about whatever. We happen to be talking about Tiger King or Flappers or the 20s. Talk about whatever.
Rebecca's talking about Tiger King right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe Exotic. Well, yeah. Joe Exotic is a very ridiculous man, and cannot believe how he does very well with very attractive young men. It's at the time they started shooting, he was in a throuple with 2 straight men, and they all got married. And I won't go further into that because that in and of itself is a whole episode about, well, about what happens with the husbands. And it's hard not to.
I love that you just sighed. So that
Yeah,
tells me a lot in itself. And you also smiled when you sighed.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I highly recommend it. And I
spoilers.
really resisted not to watch it, but I did.
Well, that's one show I've heard a lot about. I mean, me personally, I just finished, about a month ago or a couple weeks back, I just finished watching The Outsiders. I loved it. I like to watch it on a week-by-week basis. I know now people are kind of consuming it at once. I love The Outsiders. That was my recent kick. As a composer, I was really impressed with the soundtrack. I was impressed at a lot of things. It's just the story of it. I'm not a big Stephen King fan. My dad growing up was a Stephen King fan, so I didn't know much about him. I mean, growing up in Connecticut, Stephen King was kind of just a big author. He's kind of just like a New England character. But I never read much of his books. But
there's a real revival for him.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of a revival.
Yeah,
I watched The Mist and some other stuff. He's got some good books. I mean, I hear some of his recent stuff, book-wise, he's had some flops too. I really don't know anything about him, but The Outsider was fantastic. I mean, this is some of the best acting I've ever seen in a long time. That main guy who played the cop, I don't know his name, he was fantastic. It starts off as like this crime drama, and then it develops into this fantasy cult kind of thing. And I love shows that do that. That's why I liked Nosferatu in the fall. It kind of started as a normal drama, and then it developed the fantasy like 6-7 episodes in. So Outsiders was great. I don't know if you ladies have seen that, or anybody in the chat if you've checked out Outsiders on HBO. That's been great.
No, I haven't. Have you, Rebecca?
No, I haven't. I was going to. Then I like started watching a few movies, and then I like watched a bunch of episodes of True Blood. Which
I think it is on a lot of people's lists.
I need to go back and rewatch True Blood, especially because I'm watching Westworld right now, and the actor who plays Dolores is in True Blood. She's the Queen of Louisiana.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
I'm playing the Outsiders soundtrack right now, folks, for if you're listening at home to what that sound is. It's just a very sinister sound. I just think it's just very cool.
John, can you give us a little bit of just without any spoilers, just a little bit of an overview of the show, like what it's about?
Yeah, sure. And I think even the music probably could have explained it sonically as well, that it's almost a murder mystery. I think in essence it is a murder mystery, and I think that's a classic kind of 10-episode format. From a production perspective, you could do a lot in 10 episodes with murder mystery. It's kind of like the classic child murder mystery. I guess we could start premise there, and so there's a lot of built-in drama and family drama, and then it becomes paranormal. And yeah, that's basically it, and that's not spoiling much. And it's one of the things where you can't really spoil it. You just got to watch it. I think you got to get through the first episode, and then it starts to get really gritty. But yeah, that actor is really great. However you spell it, it's an awesome actor. I think Tulkas is talking about Mendelsohn. I should just look him up. He's an awesome actor. He's got a little bit of a lisp, and he's got these serious eyes, but he's like a father figure. And it's great, but I would call it a murder mystery for sure.
Oh, that must be Ben Mendelsohn. He's from Star Wars.
Yeah, let me look up, because
I think it's Ben Mendelsohn. He plays He usually plays a bad guy. John,
a great character.
I just watched Dr. Sleep, just to sort of tie into what you were saying. So it's like the Shining sequel.
It is Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah. Dr. Sleep is the sequel to The Shining, which is also Stephen King. I just watched it with Ewan McGregor. And it's interesting you were talking about child murder, because they use that sort of as an anchor as well in in Doctor Sleep, child murders. So it must be a Stephen King thing. He seems to like keeping children.
Well, Stephen King's a very messed up guy. I mean, one thing I did read is I read his biography once, because I went through a phase once in my early 20s. I like to read on a lot of like these self-made people or these crazy people, and I read his biography, and like he would like lock himself in his room and just chain smoke cigarettes and do certain drugs and kind of have these nightmares, and kind of like who's that director that did Pan's Labyrinth?
Oh yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. I don't know why I had such a brain fart about such a big director. Del Toro, kind of the same idea, where he kind of lived in his own nightmares and he created these things himself. So Stephen King just had such a weird story about his personal nightmares. So I read his biography. He just seems like such a crazy person. And yeah, child murder is definitely not a normal premise. It definitely evokes very deep reactions within people, and for me, the music that was used as well is also very sinister to the ear. Even the frequencies that are used and the darkness of the shots create a very unique form of tension. And HBO is just so good at that. They did it in Game of Thrones. They did it in The Sopranos. They're very good at that tension building.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and they do Westworld as well, which I'm watching. And I actually, John, I was going to tell you last week, I did a live stream about Westworld, and someone was saying, "Oh, I really wish John would talk about the music." And I said, "Well, I'm trying to get him to watch it because it's
really?
it's Ramin is the composer."
I should, because I got a little bit of time on my hands. This has been a busy season for me music wise. But I should do that, because I have been finishing a series on my personal channel, shameless plug, on the the music of Game of Thrones. I'm going house by house. I just put out my video a couple days ago about the music of House Baratheon. You could check that out. But I'm not tied to Game of Thrones. I could do other stuff. I might do that. I'll add it to the list. I'll take a look at the music of Westworld and kind of break it down,
and
because
I'd love to know your thoughts on it, because this season, for instance, it reminded me of Vangelis from Blade Runner. Kind of really reminded me of that kind of 1980s techno, with synthesizer type music. And I'm not a music person at all, so I'd love to know your professional.
That seems to be what's in. I mean, all this synthesizer electronics, and I like it. I mean, it Chernobyl. I mean, all the recent HBO shows have had this synthesizer thing. Yeah, Kolnitska, I love it. Game of Thrones is forever. And I said that in my latest Baratheon video at the end. I said, this fandom is going to go on forever. We have a lifetime to talk about stuff. But yeah, I'd love to add Westworld to the palette. So it's season 3 now? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Well, it just started. So you would like it because it's on HBO, and they just do it weekly. So you wouldn't, you don't, it's not like Netflix or it's all done. By the way, I was going to say, first of all, whenever you share your video, make sure to @ me and I'll share it out. Okay.
Sure.
Because there's still a ton of people who are consuming Game of Thrones. And then the other thing I was going to mention to Rebecca, because she has Stannis as her hashtag. What's your hashtag? Rebecca, do you hear me?
So right now, and I need to change it because he was defeated horribly as of this morning. But Davos Fingers, they're a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. Every year they do a Song of Madness, which is like a March Madness style tournament with characters from Game of Thrones and from the books. And that was who I was rooting for. But
I see. And then I also came up with this idea for a meme, it's like Stannis the Manus. I had this idea. I said to Jack, I wish someone would do Stannis the Piranus, and it could be like a piranha, or like a piranha, Stannis the praying mantis. That's it. I was thinking it'd be hilarious if it was a praying mantis with like a Stannis face on it. So I was going to ask if someone who has some skills could do that for me.
I think we can figure that out. I can
get the guy that does our thumbnails to help out.
It could be a piranhas, but I was thinking a praying mantis kind of sounds better.
Yeah, that's pretty clever. Heidi, you are such a naturally creative person. I mean,
Oh, is that?
I have to ask
Are you
you, Heidi.
complimenting me on my toilet paper
No,
roll?
I am, and I'm going to get deep down into what makes Heidi tick. Heidi, when did you start? Like, what was your first creative venture? Was it the school choir? Was it a school play? What was it that sparked your first kind of
Oh,
almost like physical creativity, like texture creativity, like touch creativity? Because you seem to like things that like costumes, things that you could touch. What sparked that with you? Like, I just have to ask.
I think it was probably, well, it's pretty young, but I think I really got into Barbies. And my girlfriend and I was saying to Jack, if we had had this lockdown when I was a kid, although I wouldn't be able to play with her, I guess I would have totally have been fine. I basically had an entire set built in my bedroom for my Barbies. Like I had, I made their clothes. I had furniture. I had an entire set, and then I would design stuff. I would make like, props for them, furniture for them. I'd steal stuff from all over the house and just repurpose it. And it's funny because like every creative person I talk to, including you and Rebecca, obviously, always like kind of have some manic sort of things that we do when we're like younger. What about you? What did you do?
I'm just starting to slow down because actually my birthday tomorrow is a new decade, so I'll just leave it at that. I'm getting a little slow
Uh-oh.
in my older age and focusing on my health and family and stuff. But no, my 20s was very manic because just being a freelancer and just being a creative person, just not being naturally good at finances, things like that. I mean, it was just a crazy life.
But
But
when
for
you were a
me,
kid though, like what did you do? What was your first sort of like,
oh, like where it really started.
yeah.
Jeez. I mean, I was a church kid, so we used to sing a lot of these traditional hymns, and when you read the hymn books, it was always those four-part harmonies. You had to actually read the music. So in church, I would read the music, and I would hear my grandma sing. So probably started, but for me, it was really the public schools. In fourth grade, we all learned band instruments, and in my town, it was just a real kind of lower middle class neighborhood. There was nothing to do, so the school was giving us a free instrument. So it was like fucking hell yeah. I didn't really come from a musical family, but it
Oh,
started
that's
there,
interesting.
and that was
Oh,
it. I
wow.
just I never got good at anything else. So to me, it wasn't like a natural thing. It was like just by the time I was a senior in high school, I was like, dang, I have this instrument. I guess I'm pretty good at it. Like, I might as well do something with it. So, and it was a lot of ups and downs, but it was always music for me. I dabbled in sports and stuff. I wasn't really good at it. I dabbled in art, but for me, I was really always a one-trick pony. I just always loved music. I always liked to listen. My mom used to say I was always like whistling as a kid. I would bang pots and pans. I'm just thinking of my mom a lot lately. I love my mom. She's
That's
great. But she
awesome.
used to say I would whistle a lot and stuff. So, how about you, Rebecca? Since we're getting into the deep down, when did you get into like cinematography and post production and editing and those really deep, almost like
And did you play with
production
Barbies when you were a
values?
kid?
Yes, I played with Barbies when I was a kid, and I played instruments when I was a kid. Kind of same thing. No music bone in my, or no music background in my family. Third grade started with violin, then played cello for a little bit, and then, but yeah, I played a lot with Barbies. I didn't have a lot of Barbies, but I had a lot of clothes, so I understand what you're saying, Heidi. Like I could have definitely entertained myself, but I was a pretty ferocious reader when I was a kid.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so was kind of more on that side of things. And when I was in high school, I got really into photography, and I just like was a big movie buff, and I ended up getting lucky like in going to film school. So then editing actually like kind of came to me while I was in film school. Um, I didn't really have like a specific path like when I initially started. I just wanted to make movies, and now I'm making TV shows. So
So we have an orchestra kid, a band kid, and a choir kid in the studio.
Wow,
I
that's so
didn't. That was
awesome.
not planned, but that is so cool. See, I say it on my Twitter all the time. Music is a universal language. So
Mhm.
all of us have had some kind of music in our life. That makes me really happy because I think music is very important. I used to teach public school music. I think music should be in every school, in every every part of life. Music makes people happier in times like this. You listen to music, and especially for me, I learned classical music and jazz and instrumental music and vocal music and all types of music, and it makes people happy. But so all of us have had music somehow. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I was always in choir. I was in my church choir too, John, and had to do sight reading, which I was always terrible at. But and high school choir, and my mother was a singer as well, but she actually would perform.
Oh, that's cool.
Not professionally, but she would do a lot of people's weddings and things like that. So, and it's funny because my sister and I have been doing live streams. So it's like not live streams, but video chats with my mom. And my sister's been like singing to my mom and playing the ukulele to her, and she'll sing back, and it's so cute. Like, so it really is sort of the universal language, I think. I think, John, that's what you sort of said, right? John, is your birthday on April Fool's Day?
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for one of my old licenses so I could prove it, because no one ever believes me. So I was rummaging through my junk drawer. I got an old license. I'm going to show you folks. I was born on April 1st. I'm covering up the year, but because no one ever believes me. And here's an old license.
Wow,
all right?
look at you, handsome.
See that?
A little bit blurry.
It's a little bit blurry, but trust me there. April 1st. Sorry, I'm going to upgrade my camera. I was thinking about that. Lighting and cameras is my next step. But seriously, I was born on April 1st. But yeah, tomorrow is my birthday. So my whole life, people have been giving me a hard time. My mom specifically. My mom's a bit of a prankster. She retired. So she's far away and now in a different state. But she actually just mailed me my gift today. She always sends me a prank gift. So she sent me a freaking exploding thing in the mail today. So I've always been getting pranked my whole life. But yeah, that is my real birthday. It's a new decade for me, and I've always had great pranks played on me my whole life. But I'm telling you, it's legit. April
I want to
1st.
say hi to Linda. Hi, Linda.
Oh, Linda's here. Hey, Linda. Welcome.
Hi, Linda R.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
John, is it the 4-0?
Yeah.
Or the
3-0. Come on.
You're amongst friends. We're all 40 here.
I'm just going to leave it a mystery, because one thing I never like sharing is my age, but I will, I think people can do the math about that based on, I will let you, if you could watch several of our other streams and you could get my age, and we'll see who gets the right decade, because some people think I'm 21, some people think I'm 31, some people think I'm 41. I could just blend in, but
John,
I am getting older. I'm just going to leave it at that.
My birthday's a week after you. I'm April 9.
Ah, so are you an Aries? Are you a crazy Aries?
Yes.
Yeah.
That explains
so are you.
Well, that's why we had the Creatives Guild here.
Exactly.
So we're
Rebecca,
people.
what sign are you? You a Leo?
I'm a Libra.
Oh, a Libra. You're the balanced one.
78. Peter Griffin got it right. I used to do that with my students all the time. How old are you? I'd be like, I'm 87.
I think he's saying you born 78.
Oh, 1978. Oh, I thought he was being witty. 1970, pretty close. I will say I'm an 80s kid. I'm big 80s and actually really 90s. Yeah. Harry Potter was a big part of my teenage-ish years. I'll leave it at that. I did read A Song of Ice and Fire in the 90s, but I was kind of youngish at that time, so you could deduce my age.
I was going to say, Linda says, I took violin in elementary and was in choir until 15.
It's very important, and you should pick it up.
Everyone in this community is really creative. This is what I love about it.
For me, music offered an escape. I was an only child, so to me, I mean, I had a Game Boy and stuff like that, and an Atari, but to me to go up and play my instrument was just a really natural way of expression. And my little nephew is learning the flute now, and it's really nice to see him like put his phone away and stuff and just do the music. And you mentioned some kind of music therapy stuff with your mother too, and that's another emerging field that's very big and got a lot of proven results. I mean, music can do amazing things in the brain and the quote-unquote soul, and it just gives people a release. And for me, that's what I liked about it. Just as a kid, I could just go and play my trumpet, and it would piss off all the neighbors because we were in this middle class neighborhood. Like everybody lived right next to each other. Everybody, shut the hell up, shut up. My mom be like, no, you keep practicing, honey. You're gonna do great. And then because I practiced, I got really good. I ended up getting my scholarship and stuff. So it all works out. But that was never my intention. But music gives you that medicine for the soul. So that's
Absolutely.
what it was. That's what it was for me. But the music therapy is a big field. And there's these videos of these very elderly people that even had Alzheimer's, and they would put the headphones on and play like their music from their time, and you would see their eyes light up, and they would start dancing, and they would start talking, because it really activates those deep parts of the brain, of the soul. So music is awesome. But I mean, all the arts are awesome because it frees humans from numbers, and there is room for that. We have to crunch numbers and we have to have data in life, but the arts let us be who we are and be innovative.
I was going to ask Rebecca, did you experience that big like power outage? It probably was like 15 years ago. Yeah, it was the entire Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah.
Did you have that, John? I don't know if you had that experience. So where I live, we had it, and everything, all the power was out. And, so what happened was my neighbor came over. He played, he was in a band. So he came over, and a couple of my friends came over, and we all sat on my porch and we like had a sing along. But then what John was talking about, this is what made me think about it. It was so fun. Like we did it till like 2 a.m. People were yelling at us from their windows because they didn't have their air condition. It was in the summer. They didn't have their air conditioners on, so they could hear every little thing. And I guess it probably sounded really loud, but we're like, oh, come on. Like, how often do you get a power outage?
Well, yeah, on that scale. Yeah, no, it was fun. Like, it was in the middle of the day. Like everyone left. All the pizza places and delis were giving out free food.
Yeah, and ice cream. They were handing out ice cream.
And we were just like, taking, wine into the park and, just having a good time. But at the time, I was in Manhattan and I lived in Queens at the time. And there was no going home. Stayed with my friend who lived on the 20th floor. And
oh my gosh,
elevator. Also no running water because, those are all pumps and that kind of stuff. And
yeah, of course.
Those big buildings.
My husband, my now husband, he did the same thing to you. Went to the park. They got wine or drinks or whatever. I was home. We had a gas stove. So I remember my neighbor was able to come over and cook something. She's like, she knew I had a gas stove. It was stinking hot though, remember? And I had my bedroom was in the attic. So that's why we were sitting outside, because it was so hot that day. But it was an amazing experience. And then the next morning, I remember we were all like, where do we get coffee? Like we're all like we were like zombies wandering around trying to find where to get coffee. They're like, well, there's power. Like I saw a woman with a coffee and I'm like, where'd you get your coffee? Oh, they've got power over there. So it was kind of like a really cool memory, I think, for me.
Yeah, mine was, the only downside of mine was it took me like, I couldn't get home until like late the next day because it was only buses and like the buses were full. So it took forever to get on a bus. And then I got home, ran into my neighbor. I was like, I need to like throw everything out. He's like, no, we had power. Like we were like one of the few neighborhoods that got power like a couple hours after the whole thing. So I came home, my cats like had been sitting in air conditioning and it was fine.
Yeah. It was a great story. I think people in the chat have been enjoying the story time as well, and just want to take a brief moment, say hello to everybody who's popping in, supporting the Creatives Guild. This is just a nice open-ended discussion we're having here. It's March 31st, 2020 in our pandemic. Hope everyone's doing well. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us and supporting the Creatives Guild.
Quaranstream.
Yeah, we have a Quaranstream here. That's what we're calling it. And it's been fun so far. So thank you, everybody, for showing up. And yeah, nice nails as well, Shadow Cat.
Let's see them.
Oh, so I've also
let me zoom into the nails.
I didn't see them. Oh,
there we go.
Oh, wow.
Not that one, because I redid them, or I had to redo one of them. So I'm also watching Twin Peaks: The Return very slowly. I don't know, are either of you Twin Peaks fans?
I watched the original series, but I haven't seen the reboot.
Well, it's not a reboot. It's like
Okay.
I've seen it. I'm not a big fan, but I've seen them.
But were you a fan of the original series or
Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Oh,
Me
I love
personally, I didn't even see the original. I've actually only
Oh,
seen the reboot.
I couldn't even like imagine trying to watch the reboot without at least seeing Fire Walk with Me, because it's more like Fire Walk with Me than it is like the original series.
Okay.
I really enjoy it, but you know, I come in with a lot of that's like the other like, you know, show that I'm like kind of a super fan of and consume all the material. If I don't know if Bubba is still in the chat, but Bubba from Double P Media, he does a bunch of different podcasts. One being the Joffrey of podcasts, and oh, Bubba, you're gonna kill me. I'm like totally blanking. I'm blanking on their Twin Peaks podcast name right now, and I'm looking it up. But he had a great Twin Peaks podcast that I was a big fan of and listened to every week while The Return was on. And now rewatching it for the first time, kind of, you know, not, you know, doing rewatches. Like this is a good time for like rewatches and actually rewatches where you pay attention to things.
Yeah, I did that with Westworld season 2.
Yeah,
that's what I've been doing because I have honestly haven't been impressed with a lot of the shows out. So I've just been rewatching the greats. I was rewatching Lost, like Sleepy Hollow, Grimm,
nice.
like I'm Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. I've been rewatching like all my favorites, Fringe, Criminal Minds. Like I'm rewatching all these old shows and nothing holds up to them now. I mean, there's some greats like Outsider, yeah, you know, Westworld, but there used to be just like Thursday night Fringe, Friday night Grimm, like Tuesday night Sleepy Hollow. There used to be these great fantasy seasons all the time, and you're right, Fringe was fantastic. I got through Grimm, and there's some great. Like Fox used to put out some really great series, and Lost too. Lost still holds up. That's what I'm rewatching now. Lost is great.
It's interesting because Fringe is actually J.J. Abrams as well as Lost, so that's probably why they're both such solid shows.
When you let creative people take charge, it's amazing what could happen. Like you know, these iconic creative people. Say what you want about like Dan and Dave or J.J. Abrams or Steven Spielberg, Alfred Hitchcock. There are these individuals that just understand cinema in a certain way. And when you have all these fucking executives and business people at the top and, you know, kind of what's happening with Disney, like running things, it always sucks. But when you have creative people like JJ is just one of the best. Like when JJ's at the top, I don't care what he makes. It is so good. And Lost was kind of his first, not his first, but his big, or his first big break, I would say. Lost was where it all started, and he kind of became known as this edgy, mysterious director type. But he just has that knack for cinema, and he's got a similar story. He was like 8 years old, making movies, 7 years old, like kind of a weird kid, kind of a social reject, you know, making a name for himself. These are the special people in life that, you know, for me, it really inspires me.
Rebecca, I was going to tell you that my son, my oldest son, he has the same name as the killer from the original Twin Peaks.
Bob?
No. From who killed Laura Palmer?
Yeah, well, or Leland?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my son's name.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know. I didn't even think about it like until I went to rewatch it, and then I was like, "Oh my God, we've named our son the Laura Palmer killer." But it's actually a family name. That's where we and you don't hear it very often, right? Like
no, not at all.
So I felt kind of bad about that. Oh, Linda says she wants me to watch do the costumes of the Forsyth Saga. Yeah, I saw that years ago, and it's funny because the guy, you see him in a lot of American movies now. And Linda, you'll have to tell me what his name is. But he's a redheaded actor, and he was such an evil bastard in that show. Like he was so awful, but the costumes are fantastic. If anybody's seen the Forsyth Saga.
Yeah, Heidi, out of all of us folks, has definitely the most well-developed channel, and she has several videos on costumes. So please check out Heidi. I did show her a few minutes ago. She's at Costume Company. Give her
Thanks,
a follow.
John.
Throw her a video. Well, she's one of my favorite YouTubers. I subscribe to a lot of people. I love her videos, just the breadth. I mean, we kind of started hanging out with the Game of Thrones community, but the breadth of her content, she does movies and films and a lot of the same stuff I like. And obviously, we all kind of focus on fantasy, but she just has a knack for costumes. And folks, the stuff we talk about is very important. Costumes, music, editing, cinematography is very, very important. The director is not this god that does everything. And really, Heidi showed me not how important the costumes are, but how important the costume designers are. And she gets interviews with certain costume designers. So she's great. Heidi's awesome. I love you, Heidi.
Oh, I wanted to
Rebecca. I
mention.
love Creatives Guild. I love everyone in the chat. I love you all.
John, that's so sweet. I just wanted to say Alana's still here. Like I said, he's just going to pop in. Maybe he left and came back, but he said that he loves Fringe too. You know,
Fringe
Alana
is great. John
Yeah.
Noble is a great actor, and that's a great fantasy. You know, Nemo's in there. It's got every season's got something fresh.
and
It's
it's
got it's kind of time travel. It's got paranormal. It's got, you know, the goblins and ghouls. It's got everything. It's got that pretty. It's got those kind of B-list actors in there that you could tell their acting's not really great. You know, I used to love that about those 2000 shows, like because they used to pay actors really well back then, so you know they could always afford like the B and C list actors, you know. But and then they would always have enough for like a John Noble or something. He would rescue everybody. God, he was so good in that show. And he was in Lord of the Rings. He was he was the King of Gondor. Like he does these fantasy. He was in what else was he in? He was in was he in Lord of the Rings too, or he's such an adaptable actor, John Noble, and I don't know if he's still alive.
It was funny because he's Walternet as well. He plays two characters, and there's a character in Westworld. I
Walter Frey, of course.
A Walternet name, but just that whole idea of there being like two worlds and the way they crafted it was so clever. Like a mirror, like it was so.
Fringe was onto the multiverse way before it became cool. I mean, that episode where, I don't want to spoil it, where basically he's going to like restart everything, like really freaked me out. And it had fantastic music as well. Fringe had a great theme song. So I'm rewatching all those old series. I love them because right now, to be honest, it's been like a year since Game of Thrones season 8. I have not really filled the void very well, honestly. So I'm rewatching a lot of old shows to just make me feel better. But some of the new shows are doing it for me. But the past year, I haven't seen much great stuff. Outsiders has been great. But if you had to throw one at me, folks in the chat, what series from this year would you throw at me that could really, you think would really impress someone like me? You guys know me even better than some of my real friends. Someone that appreciates, fantasy and drama and high production value. What would you throw at me, folks in the chat, or what are you watching? Because right now I'm watching old stuff.
Yeah.
Now, John, I wanted to tell you, I finally saw Rise of Skywalker.
Movie-wise, there's great movies out, but so you saw it. What'd you think?
Yeah, because just to let everyone know, like our last show.
Before you go, I hate to interrupt.
No problem.
Elon, I think, is heading out. He's got a deadline
bye,
tomorrow.
Elon.
Elon's heading out, so thanks for coming in. We appreciate it, and stay tuned for more videos and check out our old videos too.
What I was going to say is that so our last video I think we did together was our New Year's special. Was that right? And so we were talking about Rise of Skywalker, and what had happened is I hadn't seen it, so we couldn't talk about spoilers. So I finally saw it. Oh my God, I'm like so behind on everything. And I have to say, I wasn't like, John, I think you really liked it, right? But I kind of wasn't crazy about it, to be honest with you. Costumes were, I thought the acting was excellent, though.
Hey, I love healthy disagreements. Would you care to elaborate, Heidi?
I don't know. I didn't, those moments. I was talking to AU Packmule about it, John, who's another, person in our community, Game of Thrones community. I just said to him, I didn't feel the emotional connection that I normally felt to them. It might've been my mood. I know to be fair, I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it at home. And so that might have helped, that might have sort of, influenced my feelings about it. I just didn't feel those, those emotional connections that I would normally feel for the characters.
It's interesting. I mean, there could be several theories from a character development perspective, from a continuity perspective, just from there's a little too much. The woke knob was turned a little too high. I mean, there's several theories about what went on with this latest Star Wars franchise, but no, overall for me, I liked it. It was a good 8 out of 10. I like the prequels better. I mean, it's funny if you say that in front of a Star Wars fan, some of them will freak out, some of them will agree with you. But
I think
thought
it depends when you're
prequels were
born.
better.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're born in the 80s like you are, you might like the prequels. I was born in the 70s, 60s, actually 60s. Late 60s. I like the original trilogy. And then maybe a younger person might like this series. I think it's probably the connection you have, the emotional attachment you have, maybe. That's my theory.
Hey, Rebecca, is one of your friends here? Is David your someone from your squad? Thanks for bringing people over to our virtual hang here.
Of course.
What's up, David? You look great. I love the
David.
beard. Beard looks great.
Yeah, it's my friend who used to live here, now is in Ecuador. So we're actually like getting a chance to talk more. It's funny, like I'm talking a lot to, my friends on the other coast and in other countries, and it's like, we could do this on a normal basis too.
I do that every week in my, I basically I'm a composer, but I have a music company as well. I publish other people's music. So I work with people. I mean, every day my team is like 6 people. I have, in my freaking iPhone clock, I have a guy in Argentina, a guy in London. I have clients in LA 3 hours behind. I have clients in New York. So I'm juggling time zones and we do it fine. We're all just on WhatsApp. Everybody has video call. Everybody has a cell phone. We just use Dropbox. We do Zoom. We do Hangout. This is the way, and we've been doing it, and the company's doing well, and I connect with my parents digitally like this. So this is just the way to do it, folks. You can connect with all sorts of people online.
I cannot get my parents to do video calls to save my life. And they're
Heidi, what are you giggling at over there?
Oh yeah,
Jack just brought me a glass of wine. He put an ice cube in it.
When that wine came out.
You have a great hubby.
To let everybody know, in Ontario, they would probably drop dead before they will close the liquor store. So we have our liquor stores are open still. They're reduced hours. So my lovely husband, just went and got me some wine. So that's what this is. But he put an ice cube in it because it's probably not cold. Thank you, honey. That's what I was giggling about. So I'm going to take a sip.
I'm drinking wine out of a can, Heidi.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't feel so bad.
Yeah. I mean,
the only thing is I have a glass that I usually use for my live streams that says I drink and I know things.
Yeah.
I have that one today though.
That's awesome. I love Game of Thrones. There was an interesting Twitter debate about like rewatchability. And for me, like if I'm chilling for 2 days, I don't like rewatch Game of Thrones. It's not one of those things that for me I like sit and rewatch. And there was this really good debate where people were like, "Hey, Game of Thrones sucks. No one's even talking about rewatching it." And I'm like, whoa, whatever. Like it's not like when I sit down and I got like 2 or 3 days to rewatch, I'll rewatch like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or something with a nice story. I very rarely will sit down and like leisurely rewatch Thrones. If I'm preparing for like one of our streams or if I have like a theory in my mind, but I'll rewatch it. But what about you? Is that like a series that you sit down and like rewatch like casually? Can you do that?
No, I have done it. Like I'll watch certain episodes. Like if I really want to watch it, or if I'm watching, sometimes I'll just be like, I want to watch this one scene, but then I'll end up watching the whole episode.
How about you, Rebecca?
Not really at the moment. I think between, kind of the letdown the last season and the fact that like we've been, like really like kind of like doing like deep dives into it. Like, yeah, I can't imagine try and rewatch it anytime soon, but that's just because I was so engaged with it for such a long time that I need a break from it. I'm kind of I'm the kind of person I'm like I have like 3 books going right now, and like Game of Thrones is my like subway book, so I'm like kind of like I'm on I'm on Dance of Dragons now, but
I'm ready for the illustrated Storm of Swords to come out. That's coming out soon. Yeah. Those illustrated editions are my favorite, and that's my favorite book. So I'm going to reread that when it comes out. The books are great too. For me, the books I can sit and reread, or an audio book like Apparently Human. I could do that no problem. Sometimes I like to do that. But for me, those shows are hard because to me, I need a continuous story. And if I sit and watch season 1, I'm going to want to watch all 8. But for me, if I have 2 days to sit, I love watching The Hobbit, the first Hobbit, all the way to the last Lord of the Rings. For me, that's something I love doing. I think that's a great continuous story. Or Harry Potter. Harry Potter's tough for me because there's so many different directors. But for me, Hobbit to Lord of the Rings is such a nice, continuous, chill out story.
I can only watch Harry Potter during like Christmas season.
It does have that kind of cheesy, magical nature, and I'm probably a little biased on Harry Potter. I'm just a really big Harry Potter nerd, so I love it. I know it's kind of lost its popularity a little bit in recent years, but I love Harry Potter. But it does have a little bit of that kid nature to it. It's got all those Christmassy scenes, all those Halloween scenes, so it's very magical. The first 2 movies have a fantastic John Williams soundtrack. It's very magical, very cheesy. Starting in the 3rd movie, it gets very dark. And speaking of Harry Potter, I just finished writing the theme song for Drinks and Nose Things. They're actually starting.
Awesome.
They're starting a separate media company. It's now called Drawbridge Media. They have a podcast where they're doing Harry Potter books. So, if you want to check them out, you could talk about them, and it's all spoiler free. You could actually listen to their podcast and not get spoilers. So I've been doing a lot of theme songs for a lot of original podcasts. So I just did the theme song for them. So check them out. Harry Potter does have a fandom still, and it's great. I love it. The books are really great. And actually my stepfather, he has nothing to do in the quarantine, he started reading Harry Potter himself. And I'm like, that's funny because the first 2 books are so teenagey. They're so kid. It doesn't really get dark until the 3rd book. It's And the movies too. The movies are it's almost like a Disney movie, the first 2.
John, I was just going to say, Santavia said that she loved that I did Anne with an E costumes. So for any Anne with an E fans, I did a video. And then also Linda's saying that the Kevin Sullivan production is really good as well. So if you guys, Linda's Canadian, so she knows this, but the original Anne with an E, the original Anne of Green Gables is Canadian.
Yes.
Done by a company called Kevin Sullivan Productions. So I did a review of the Anne with an E on Netflix, which was a CBC show done with Netflix. So in Canada, actually, you can't even watch it you can watch, I think, two seasons on Netflix, and then season 3, you have to watch it through their streaming service. But so anyway, that was fun for me because I got to actually, I'm going to show you guys. I don't know if anyone saw this. I won an auction item. I won Anne's crown, her flower crown.
That looks beautiful.
Anne with an E. What happened was they opened up the auction to only Ontario. So I was like, I'm going to try and bid on this. I probably won't win because I never win anything. But there was a little bit of a fight for it. But I really wanted it because it was one of the only costume pieces that they were auctioning. It was only props. So I got this, and then I also got this parasol here, which was Anne's parasol she wore in Houston season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
now that's intense.
So I got these 2 items, and but I had also bid on Marilla and Matthew's glasses, but I ended up letting those go because they were going really, really high. So anyway, so sorry, I kind of took that over.
No.
You have some cool knickknacks, Heidi.
One thing that is, it is nearly impossible to find the original Anne of Green Gables. That was one of my favorite book series growing up, and it was one of my favorite movies. And
is it on video? Must be on video somewhere.
You through Amazon or eBay, and it's really expensive. It's like they sell for over $100.
Oh, wow.
Because they don't have no one has the rights in the United States.
Yes, Sullivan should do a master reprint of it. Try and clean it up because there's a huge audience that would love it. Yeah. Like my sister, I didn't even know this when I told her I was buying this I said, listen, I'm getting this wreath. I'm kind of spending a lot for it. But she said, oh, I have a special edition of Anne of Green Gables book by Lucy Maud Montgomery. She's got one of the original, I don't know, special edition prints. One of the old edition prints books. And she's like, yeah, she goes, it's probably the most I've ever spent. But there's a huge demand for that type of thing. So I do touch on the Sullivan production. John, did you watch any of that when you were growing up?
I did not.
Or because I love those characters. I love like Anne of Green Gables. I loved Little House on the Prairie. I read all those books as well. But because obviously it's a female character, and there probably wasn't as many female characters for us. So when I sort of found one,
I never read it. I wasn't into it, but very fascinating. Yeah. But hey, apparently Human is bringing up something a little controversial, and you know me, I do like controversial issues sometimes. So I would love to open up this discussion because we're not going to get too heated. But apparently, Human, you're very right. Is that does the personal opinion of the creator, is that really going to affect the value of their work? So obviously J.K. Rowling had come out with some, I guess, statements that were framed as actually it's pretty bad statements, to be honest. And I'm someone that is pretty opinionated, but she said some pretty dumb things, I guess, about transgender issues or something. And now a lot of people are kind of boycotting Harry Potter, and that used to be a very important, not important, but kind of almost required reading for teenagers. So it's kind of falling apart. So what do you two think about that? Should the personal opinions of a creator, talking
about cancel culture?
I guess, or just opinion. I mean, it's been going on for
this goes
forever.
On. Yeah, forever. It's like it's hard to go back and like look at like the artists that we love that have meant a lot to us. Man, like as a kid, and I know it's going to sound weird, but I was a huge Woody Allen fan as a kid.
Yeah, me too.
One of my first movies, or like my first movies that I just really loved was Radio Days. And then I followed him more, and he's definitely been an influential filmmaker on me. And like, I can't, I won't support him now. I would not. But I also can't say I wouldn't see a new movie. Like I did see Blue Jasmine, and I thought it was great. And
it's same with Roman Polanski,
Well, Polanski, and then this is the thing. It's like, and I really respect his work, but like I won't watch Roman Polanski movie. It's weird how we react to certain people and not others. And
well, that's the thing. It seems like everybody has their own thing, and apparently Human is definitely very invested in this specific issue. And imagine, like, if I was a gay person, or if I was a black person or Hispanic person, and if I saw certain things, I would have very specific things. So the question is, should every movie, like in Return of Skyward, should every movie try to cater to every single group, or should we try to be edgy? Because Woody was pretty edgy. I think he was deliberately edgy, wasn't he?
Yeah,
but was it his personal life, or was that just a creative decision? That's really the debate.
There are movies like, I would never watch Manhattan again, even though like the opening of Manhattan is still like one of the most incredible pieces of that time, like using that music, using Gordon Willis, and it's such an iconic opening. But then it's like he's dating a teenage girl, and he's a 40-year-old man, and at some point it's like,
I get really conflicted. Like, for instance, one of the people, and I didn't even know this until I started doing some research. So Coco Chanel, everyone knows Chanel, and she's an amazing designer, but she was kind of a horrible person. Like Sontavia's pointing out that Laura Ingalls Wilder had, you could argue that it's a product of the time. You could argue that it, like, for instance, like, certain words in Huck Finn, are offensive by today's standards, but it was, a product of the time that Mark Twain was writing about.
Well, and he was writing commentary as well.
He was writing commentary, yeah. Exactly. So, so
I don't really want my kid reading that book personally. For me, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like and I'm a real patriotic kind of guy. I don't want my kid reading those words in a book. That's just for
Okay.
me. So
Well,
I think I could teach my kid about the subject matter without him having to be exposed to such raunchy words, or like I don't like the word like fag or something like that, or something like I don't want my
right,
kids exposed to this. And so for me, I do kind of believe in a little bit of the cancel culture, like some of the old cartoons, some of the
right.
racist cartoons. There's, but we also have to identify this and get better as humans. So J.K. Rowling created and it's all kind of started there. She
Yeah.
created a great fantasy world, and are now we
Yeah.
are we going to take a microscope now and look at every J.K. Rowling? Go, hey, there's no black people here. Or, hey, there's no gay. Are we going to do that? Should we
Well,
do that? We should do that. What are the implications? She did say some raunchy thing. Did she? It's like, are we overthinking this? Because we're not perfect. Like, I've done some messed up stuff in my life. I think we've all done some messed up stuff. I think it's
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that because we have social media now and people say things on social media and then it's on the record. Whereas in the old days, we would have done something and no one would have either, you'd have some Polaroids or something, maybe. I'm not, saying that I had Polaroids, but maybe you guys don't even know what Polaroids are. I don't
your
know.
president had some Polaroids too there, Heidi.
So
Just had to throw that in there.
We've all done stuff that we're maybe embarrassed of, or that's embarrassing. It's funny because years ago I took a media course when I was in school, and one of the things that they taught us in the class is don't ever do anything that will put you on the cover of the newspaper. You don't want that, like, in a negative way. You don't want, if you did something like, so just remember when you're doing something, do I want this on the cover of the, New York Times? No. If you think that could potentially put you on the cover of the New York Times in a negative way, probably don't do that. So I used to always sort of think about things like that when I was younger. I always thought that was a good message. And so sometimes when I see things that people tweet, I'm like, I don't think I ever would have tweeted that when I was in my 20s. I just don't think I would have. There's probably been some things that I've tweeted that I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have tweeted that. And maybe I did delete them. I don't know. But I'm not like I'm not a celebrity.
Yeah, but on the extreme end, what's going through the mind of someone who thinks that way? Like that telepath, that that TV pastor that's putting his hand out to cure coronavirus, like, and he's also writing books. Like, what is going through the mind of J.K.? Like, J.K. Rowling does have very bad views about transgender people, and she's sitting there with a computer typing a book. So is there a connection between those personal opinions and someone's art? Like Harvey Weinstein, someone who would grab a female and forcefully do something to them. Is there something in the subconscious there that's being produced in their movies? Like, that's the big mystery. Like Orson Welles, like Stephen King was obviously doing a lot of drugs and stuff like that. Like, does the evil of the human come into the production, or are they separate? Like, what about, like, basically the point is, are people justified in saying, hey, J.K. Rowling said this, maybe we should, put our hands off Harry Potter from going forward? And I could totally see it. Even with certain cartoons. Let's just put this on the shelf.
I don't know. Oh, so go ahead, Rebecca.
I guess, like, as far as like comparing, J.K. Rowling's thoughts about gender and her being transphobic, or at least being a TERF, comparing that to caricature cartoons, and I don't know. I guess, like, I don't really know. I haven't heard that her work necessarily is being called into question as much as her character. But I do see your point, John. Like, when we start talking about like Roman Polanski and Woody Allen, who are, obvious predators of women, and like going back to their work, and it's like, are we now seeing things that we couldn't see before because we know this person more? I guess I haven't heard that argument with like the Harry Potter series at the moment, but
No,
I'm
good
not
discussion. And on the flip side, I've been watching some George R. R. Martin interviews, and sometimes he says some kind of witty comments about women, or like, or like, hey, how come there's so many white males in your book, George? And George will be like, well, because I'm a white male, and like people will laugh it off, but like, where does that come from? Like on the flip side, like, is it just because he's a cool, witty guy, or do we take certain people too seriously, or do we only get mad at when people make a conservative viewpoint? That's kind of the other thing, or because when D&D are on a panel talking about Sansa or something like that, is there a degree of outrage here? Like, who determines that? Because J.K. Rowling has definitely taken a hit, and I know Peter Griffin, you said you didn't hear about this one, but it definitely was a big issue on the Twitter
Rachel,
blog
it's
sphere.
funny.
She
Rachel
took a
Evan Ward,
big hit from this.
Yeah, right before Westworld, Rachel Evan Ward came out and said something. I don't even know what it was. It was something, and that made a lot of people mad. And I think she ended up either shutting down her Twitter account or something. It's the actress who we were just talking about, who's in True Blood and also Westworld, the star. But as soon as Westworld came out, everyone's like, "Oh, she's so beautiful!" Like, forgotten. That's the thing. I think it was like there's a really great quote from Hugh Grant in I think it's like what's the movie with him and Julia? I've forgotten. It's anyways, he says something like today's newspapers are tomorrow's trash bin, like tomorrow's trash bins, or kitty litter boxes or something. And it's kind of true, right? Like, I mean, people get enraged. They'll get super enraged about something, but then tomorrow they'll probably forget about it. And I think that's sort of human. I think that's a human thing that we do. Like I was reading, like for instance, speaking of Hugh Grant, there was a situation years ago where he got caught with like a prostitute. And they were saying that actually most people are willing to forgive somebody, even if it's an incredibly egregious sort of thing. Now, so someone like Harvey Weinstein, obviously that's not forgivable. But if someone does something and they apologize and they say, I made a mistake, most people are usually willing to forgive that. But if it's something like I really have a hard time with this whole thing with the Roman Polanski, for instance, because he was actually found guilty and then he skipped the country. It's not like he did have a trial. He was found guilty. And then before sentencing, he skipped the country. And it wasn't just one girl he was found guilty, at least with one girl, a minor, but there's apparently other situations. So with him, I'm kind of like, yeah, you're kind of a dirtbag. Like, I don't really know that I want to support your work, even if you are the most brilliant artist. But for the majority of people, if people make mistakes and they apologize, like for instance, I remember years ago, Winona Ryder, she was obviously having some troubles and she was in a store and she stole some things and she had, some narcotics or something. I don't even have the story correct, so I apologize.
No,
but what's that?
Yeah, she was shoplifting and she had like pills.
She had pills. And someone said,
Nothing.
if she just said, hey, well, I mean, obviously she was going through something, but look at her now. Like, I mean, she's, she's on top of the world. She's on 2 shows and people are willing to forgive her. People are willing to forgive. And I honestly said to Jack, like, you know what, honestly, if Roman Polanski had just done his time, like, he could have probably have just moved on, but now he's, as he hasn't, there's been no justice. So people feel really enraged by that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm drinking
wine now, so right. I may not come up with good answers.
And that's like part of the problem. Like if we go back with so many artists that we support and that we love, like music hasn't gotten the same kind of Me Too movement that the film industry has, especially all those guys from the 60s and 70s. Like David Bowie, did some really horrible things. Mick Jagger did some horrible things. And we know about it, but it's like, oh, that still falls under a little bit of victim blaming or, oh, she was a groupie. Doesn't matter that she was 14. She was a groupie. So,
Yeah, I haven't heard about it lately, but we have a band up here in Canada and the lead singer is currently been charged and there's a trial pending for him. And
it's a big band in Canada?
Like Headley. I don't know if you guys know that band, Headley. And so they're not in Canada, they're a big deal. So what had happened was the guy, we have a Canadian Idol. I know it sounds goofy, but we do. So he had won Canadian. I think he'd won Canadian Idol, but he was in this band, and then he got in trouble with some of the groupies because the girls were like 14, right? So, and some of the stuff, like it was just like if you read it, you would be like, oh my God. But probably like you're right, Rebecca. Like I bet you Bowie might have done things like this. Like Mick Jagger might have. I mean, didn't Mick Jagger and Bowie sleep with each other? I mean, they were just
that too. Yeah, they all.
It was a big party.
Yeah, it was a big party, and there were definitely lots of young kids at the parties. So, but we don't talk about it as much. It's like still a different world where at least I don't know if it's because the film world kind of operates on a little bit more of a real job kind of scale. I don't know.
Yes, apparently him, and it is Jacob Hogard, I think. Yes. So I was kind of like, because what happened there, of course, this is what happens with the cancel culture versus not cancel culture, is that then their fans pile on top of other people. I sort of have decided just to make a rule of just not really talking about these things on social media. Like I'll rant about it to my husband in the kitchen. Like I'll be like throwing some pans around and be like, I can't believe that Harvey Weinstein, like he's got that walker, pretend he got it out of prop storage, pretending that he's crippled or something.
I think it's actually safe to rag on Harvey Weinstein anywhere. I don't think people are going to come at you because you're on like that.
Now he's got the corona.
Yeah, does he have? Yeah.
Oh wait,
he's got it. Corona? He's got it. Yeah, Harvey's got it. He's got it. Vengeance is sweet.
There is a
sick joke.
There's a big thing about Corona with like the jail.
He's in prison. Yeah, I mean it's running rampant.
And if he's been in a jail, like prisons, I'm sure like some prisons have it, but it's a little bit more of an isolated situation where the jails, like people come in and out and get processed really quickly. So
he's at Rikers Island. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think they did not send Harvey Weinstein to Rikers Island.
Dude, I think that's where he's at. I mean, look it up. I mean, he's getting.
They would send someone. I mean, I'm not saying you're lying. Like that's just shocking.
No, because I went through a Weinstein phase. Yeah, he's at Rikers Island Jail March 17th after release.
Wow.
Yeah, that's no joke. After release from hospital. They got top-notch medical facilities over at Rikers Island, I bet.
John, I just want to say there's so much great gossip in the chat, by the way.
Angela, I haven't been following it. The chat's been going off, huh? Everyone's stuck at home chatting.
Angela Bowie said she caught them in bed together regarding Bowie, and I'd heard. Okay. And then later on, she cleaned it up and said she thinks they fell asleep next to each other when they were writing Angie. And then Tilka says, isn't that allegedly why Natalie Wood died? She caught Christopher Walken and her hubby in bed. And Robert Wagner.
Like they definitely were all on a boat together.
I love it.
Well, Kevin Spacey's a big name up in this area. He has to show up. He has to show up to this area when he has to go to court. So that's another one. So there's a lot of them. But hey, Tulkas, you mentioned something earlier because you got me thinking of the chat. Now I kind of lost it. You were asking about Mark Snow. I know we're just kind of shotgunning topics here, but it's Mark Snow. He's the composer of the X-Files, and you were asking me if I like his music. So this is the theme song there. So yeah, that's one of the most classic TV theme songs ever, and he actually lives in Connecticut, very very near to me. He's another composer that likes to live in the woods. He doesn't like to go to Los Angeles or New York, so he lives in the woods. He has a big studio, and he just works on the X-Files, and he did the music for Blue Bloods, and I got the chance to work with him as like an intern many years back. So he's a cool guy, but Mark Snow has great music, Tulkas. So how do you know about his music? I gotta ask, because he wrote the X-Files, and people don't really know him for like anything else. But basically, he's been living off the royalties for that for his whole life. So I mean, it's a great show and it's a great theme song.
And he's working on Blue Bloods.
Yeah, he did Blue Bloods.
Favorite show.
Yeah, it's everybody's parents' favorite show.
I'm sorry.
It's got Tom Selleck in it.
I know Tom Selleck.
Parents,
but X-Files, I've seen all the X-Files and all the X-Files movies. I was a huge David Duchovny fan.
X-Files is great. And Mark Snow is great because the sounds you hear there are based on like the early 80s electronic synthesizers. So you would have to like hook up these crazy machines to develop those sounds. So at that time, it was pretty revolutionary. But yeah, you started whistling it right away, Heidi, and that's the sign of a good composer, a good TV composer. And it's like what makes these songs so memorable. But yeah, you whistled it right away.
I really liked X-Files, but I didn't get into it. It was like right at that time when I was in high school, like when I like had a job and had a car. So there's a big chunk of like television from that era. And then by the time I was like a little bit more settled, at some point I just couldn't get into it because I hadn't been into it and couldn't rewatch things the same way back then. So
yeah, Linda, this is a very casual chat. We love involving everyone. We got a small crew here. We love you all. But, the Creatives Guild, we also do some pretty intense content. Check out some of our old streams. We did a 4-hour one, the last one. But we love just hanging out here and talking, and stay tuned for more. We're going to put out, edited videos soon, and we're always going to be growing. This is a little side project for us. But yeah, Linda, we love hanging out here and involving everybody. Thanks for coming. The cats are around too. But yeah, we have a
Rebecca's
cool thing here at Creatives Guild.
John, you don't have any pets, do you?
No, I used to have a cat. My best buddy Fonzie. He used to chill on my piano all the time. I had to put him down a couple years back. He was my buddy.
Honey, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good, all good. I was a dog kid growing up, but now I have no
Rebecca
pets
has 2 cats, so we have we're cat fam. We have cat families.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something, but then I forgot.
So apparently Human is talking about the Pink Panther theme song. That's another one of the old school original theme song. Such an amazing time in history. I was watching that Smithsonian documentary. It's called America in Color, where they colorize a lot of the old footage. And just this time, the 50s, and when you see that glitz and glamour in color, and even the 40s, even the 20s, like Rebecca's a flapper. When you see this 20s footage in color and you hear this kind of music, it's amazing. But yeah, Pink Panther is that vintage theme from that amazing time.
I love Henry Mancini's
He's the composer,
correct?
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs of all time is Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Oh my God, I love that song so much.
Yeah.
John, I don't know if you're able to look that up.
So Moon River, it's so funny. My first job as a composer, the reference track was Moon River. So that I'm always going to have that song in my head. It was this kind of Art Deco film. It was a Canadian project. I'm actually working with Canadians. Yeah. Yes. Thank you to the Canadians that started my career.
Trudeau appreciates you, even though you were pointing out earlier, he did blackface twice.
And you can actually still see this film. It's called True Love Waits. This guy got a grant from the Toronto Film Festival, made this film, and so yeah, it was my first film. But Moon River was the ref track, and that's a great nostalgic track. It's from that glitz and glamour time, and it's got the almost eerie vocals. But yeah, it's great music. All the music from that time is great. And I'm starting to get into like old footage now. I was never really a history guy. I mean, I like history, but I'm starting to get into like old footage because the colorizing technology they have now is amazing. Like Peter Jackson's World War I film that he did, and that Smithsonian thing I'm talking about, the way they can colorize this old footage is amazing. And then when you hear the music from that time, you're like, oh, it all makes sense. like that jazz
and Peter
music.
Sellers, he is like a brilliant actor.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies is Stanley Kubrick's How I Learned to Love the Bomb.
Dr.
Strangelove, I mean. Yeah, one of my favorite movies. Guys, I'm drinking now, so things might kind of go off the rails a little bit.
Oh, boy. Heidi's drinking. Thank you, everybody, for coming into the Creatives Guild. We've hit an hour and a half. That is nothing for us, but we're just talking about whatever, and it's going great so far. But Heidi's drinking wine, right? Is that your drink of choice?
Rebecca's drinking bubbly wine.
Bubbly canned wine.
And I
had a bandana on, Linda, because if you're wondering, I've run out of hair dye. I haven't been leaving the house really, so I decided to put a head bandana on, and I also don't have any of my hairspray left. Linda, you know what I was going to comment on? Linda had something. What did she say?
Well, apparently humans got a pretty good one right here. John's outfit, what I wear to the pub. Heidi's outfit, what I wear to the bar. Rebecca's outfit, what I wear to the club. Hey, that's the Creatives Guild. We put 3 very unique people and we mesh them together. But I didn't think our style choices were that unique too. But yeah,
I love it.
I love the hoodie.
I wanted to say I love Apparently Human's photo. That's a beautiful photo because her eyes, like that photo of her with her eyes, and then she's got the color in the background, just picking that up. It's a stunning photo, by the way.
Looks really good.
Beautiful girl.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Heidi's got the headband. But Rebecca, you got to tell us more about this flapper outfit. People keep shouting it out.
And I want to hear about your headpiece.
All right. So, this headpiece, I actually got it in Thailand. I was there about 5-6 years ago. No, not that long. Yeah, 5 years ago I was in Thailand, and so I got this little piece I need to glue back on, but I don't have any hot gun glue, and that's not something that is a necessity for this piece, but I kind of like that.
I was going to say, I like it hanging like that.
Yeah. And then the dress, I got it in a vintage store. It is.
Oh, sorry. Apparently Human. I apologize.
Oh, but yeah, it's,
woo, sexy.
And it has like the drop waist. I don't think it's of the 20s. I think it's like an 80s, 90s dress.
Yeah, what's interesting about the 80s, though? The 80s, and I think that's why you probably have honed in on that, Rebecca, is the 80s has a lot of 20s influence in many ways.
Well, I don't think this was made to be like a 20s dress, but just like the material, I would guess like 80s or 90s.
I never knew how awesome the 20s were, because this documentary I'm watching, they colorized this shit, and I hate black and white. So the 20s were so awesome. Like, no wonder why the 80s would be inspired by it, because the 20s, they seem so awesome. Like, everyone's wearing suits. They're drinking in these speakeasies, and just the jazz music, and people are like bombing Wall Street, and there's a lot of like progressive movements and political tension and racial issues. It's like, man, this is part of history, but the 20s seemed just badass. Like, seemed like a really crazy time.
We're doing this event. Well, it's been postponed, but I'm trying to, like, we had this idea for an event, and I'm like, there's this new idea called the Roaring 2020s, like sort of like, because it's 100 years later. And I love that idea. I'm like, oh, it would be so fun to do a Roaring 2020s event where everybody would dress up like in flappers and, zoot suits and gangsters. And I just think it would be really, really a cool theme to do.
So, David, this series is actually called, it was put out by the Smithsonian. It's called America in Color, and they actually do it with an OU. so they do it the proper way. So I think it was more of a BBC thing. So it's called America in Color. They colorized painstakingly some digital footage. There's no way you could watch it for free. I bought mine on iTunes. It's a great series. It's just decade by decade, just basic American kind of history, and just kind of really great. Doesn't get into a lot of political issues, just basic stuff like here's the 20s, here's the 30s, 40s. It highlights my favorite president a lot, FDR, my favorite president of all time, because he was president for 3 terms. So, I mean, they talk about him for the whole 30s, 40s. And it stops at the 60s with the JFK assassination. That was season 1. Season 2 talks about like the late 1800s, the immigrant experience. Then it talks about 80s, 90s, 2000s, when America just kind of started to fall apart. But, America has this kind of really cool history, and this documentary did a great job showcasing that in a very basic way, just how when the wars came out, everybody kind of came together, and just seeing a lot of these wars in color, and seeing these protesters in the 20s in color, and what these flappers are wearing in color. It's just cool. And I was never really into history. I always liked ancient history when I was a kid, but just to see American history in that light was pretty cool. But yeah, check it out, David. I bought it for like $11.99 for the whole season on iTunes. Support the Smithsonian, and it's pretty cool. It's called America in Color. Pretty interesting. But
yeah, Peter's saying fashion comes and goes. Pretty soon bell bottoms will be back after the skinny jeans goes. Actually, you know what? I have a friend named Christopher who is he wears bell bottoms already. He's wearing them now. He's a kind of a fashion icon person, and he's been wearing them for he gets yelled at. Like, he'll walk down the street wearing his bell bottoms. People will kind of make fun of him, but I think you're totally right, Peter. It's fashion is cyclical, right? It comes and goes. Everything that we have now probably was inspired by something else. There's really nothing that's original, I think, in many ways.
Yeah, it definitely does. And as I think I'm the youngest one here, but as I get up there in the decades now, I do notice the trend. I mean, just the way, girls, just the way, a lot of the jeans are high up now. They're a little looser. Yep. I mean, it reminds me of the late 80s, a lot of the kind of the rimmed glasses people were wearing a few years ago were like, it was like, that's what LBJ was wearing, like from the 50s. So these styles go around, but I always wonder, like, what is the catalyst of it? Like, why do people start wearing tight jeans out of nowhere? Why do people start wearing loose jeans? Why does it go from baggy hoodies to T-shirts? Why does it go from T-shirts to polos? Because I did this documentary about Ralph Lauren in the fall, and it was like the polo became a thing. Like, where do these trends actually like come from? Who sparks these fashion trends? Like, well, it's so strange.
Yeah. Actually, John, I have to apologize. I have to watch that documentary. I really want it because actually I did a video on Stranger Things and I cited Ralph Lauren. How do you say it?
So it's funny. It's a part of his career. He used to go by Ralph Lauren in the beginning, so I always call him Lauren, and then he was always known as Polo Ralph Lauren because he was like this Americana thing. So the producers of the show, they're kind of LA people, hoity-toity. So they always called him the Ralph Lauren. So I just always call it Ralph Lauren, but his actual name is Ralph Lauren, and that's
Ralph Lauren. Okay.
I think he likes being called. But he started his career. Actually, he had this Jewish name. Is Ralph Lipschitz, and then he became Ralph Lauren, and then it was Ralph Lauren. But
Jesus. Okay, I'm gonna watch that documentary.
It's pretty cool documentary.
I would love that documentary.
So, when I was doing my Stranger Things video, she used the costume designer on that show. It's been a different designer each season, if anybody's a Stranger Things fan, and they, obviously referenced a lot of, Izod or Lacoste, Ralph Lauren. So like Steve, for instance, wears a lot of Ralph Lauren. He wears the khakis. He wears the boat shoes, deck shoes, whatever you want to call them. He wears the button down. There's a name for that. Actually, I have it in the video. But so Ralph Lauren is mentioned a lot because he was inspired by rugby. So a lot of the British sports. So he used a lot of that in his chaps line. And also, I think he kind of the rancher. I think he kind of was inspired a lot by ranchers, like the denims and the sort of Western style.
Oh, absolutely. That was his thing. And all his female models were all famous for having like no makeup. He always liked kind of the long hair, kind of no makeup, kind of loose jeans with the lasso and the cowboy hat. But yeah, the documentary goes into that phase of his life where he kind of developed that Americana image. He had like a French thing in the beginning where the Lauren was big, like he did a lot of the runway stuff, and then later in career he just became this kind of fashion icon where he consulted everybody. He consulted the French runways, he consulted making jeans, making ties, making polos. He became like an icon. So really interesting fashion figure, but it's still weird, like where do these trends come from? Like it's like 4 or 5 years ago, or I guess like 8 or 9 years ago, girls started wearing leggings. Like, where did that come from? Like, and a couple years back, the jeans started to come a little bit higher. Like in the 90s, guys wore really baggy jeans. And now a lot of like my little nephew wears these little skinny jeans. I'm like,
yeah.
How do your balls feel, man? I mean, your balls are right. Like, doesn't that hurt your balls? He's like, no, this is the style. Uncle, he's like, I know you look good, but you gotta have kids one day, man. So we used to wear baggy beans because we like to protect their balls. That's what we were all about. So where do these trends come from? I'm just trying to like culturally.
I would say they usually come from haute couture. They come from the runway, and then some of it comes from urban culture. Like, so baggy jeans apparently came from prison culture, so which would then infiltrate. Like, so what the idea that I understood is that so if someone went to prison, they would be issued a pair of jeans. But a lot of them would work out and would lose a lot of weight, and then so their pants would start to get baggy and hang down on their hips. except for the belt. And that's apparently where that kind of came from. So I think depending on where it is, it could be urban culture, it could be haute couture, it could be ready to wear. It'll come from all types of places, and it can come from culture as well. Like, from like, movie culture or television culture, like Game of Thrones, for instance, easily has influenced some of the runway fashions, and then vice versa, like OTA or something.
Well,
or
I like how film and
TV.
TV. I like how film and TV influences the greater culture too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of different topic. I mean, that's something I'm really big in. It's great. Like everyone wants to move society towards certain directions, but it seems like film and TV is always the one that does it. Like gay couples were a thing in sitcoms in the 90s, like Will and like you remember like the gay couple like became and even like Two and a Half Men, like his brother, like that kind of vibe. Like film and TV always starts these things, like, and even the transgender issues, even like the concept Modern Family, the Puerto Rican wife, the Mexican wife, like in Game of Thrones had Daenerys Targaryen. I love how film and TV propels. And even in this document, I keep talking about this documentary. In the 20s, they used to have it was blackface in the early 1900s, but in the 20s, you used to have like Louis Armstrong get up there with his trumpet. It was like, oh, here's a quote unquote colored person on TV. Whoa. And it's awesome. And like Orson Welles got on the radio in the 30s. And it's awesome how media is what naturally propels these issues forward. It's not really policy so much. In some ways it can be, you need a good law sometimes to solidify, but it's great how like even smoking cigarettes in the 70s sitcoms, like these things come through film and TV, whether we know it or not. And I love that. And Game of Thrones is really big on that. HBO itself is really big on that. And that's why I like working with film and TV. I think it's a great medium for society as well. But it's also just great to sit back and just enjoy it too. But it's interesting at how cool people are now with things 4 or 5 years later, and they might not realize that.
I was going to ask you guys, do you mind, like John, I know you haven't seen The Favorite, but do you mind if I ask Rebecca a few questions about The Favorite? Maybe we can
go for it. I think a Paralyhuman was mentioning that earlier too, The Favorite.
Oh, okay. So I have had this on my list. Like I'm doing a video and it's like, oh my God, it's been on my back burner. If Linda's watching, still watching what I'm saying, that I want to do like a top 10 movie costumes of the decade, top 10 costume movies of the decade, like the last decade. Like, I'm like, I'll probably get it done by 2021. Sorry, guys. But anyway, so one of the movies I had on my list was The Favorite. And so I finally, Rebecca, like John, you told me that I think it was the last night they were going to have it on HBO.
No, it was me.
Oh, it was you, Rebecca? Sorry.
Yeah.
So last night I watched it and it was fantastic. It was amazing. It was pretty much everything I'd hoped for.
Yeah.
And I'd been looking at the costumes. I'd understood that it was supposed to be based on a chess piece, a chess game, let's say, right? And you see a lot of checkerboard.
Yes.
Imagery. And then of course the costumes there's a lot of this black and white kind of costumes. So Rebecca, I wanted to ask you about some of the imagery and but the one main thing I want to ask you about is there's this one scene in the kitchen with the maids where they are, it looks like it's like a fish eye lens or something can you tell me a bit about that?
All right. So I started watching it last night and I probably only got through like the first like half hour. But I know what scene you're talking about. And he definitely was like going for very skewed perspectives. Like I don't feel like there's any shot in this movie that is made to feel real. Everything has like a hyper perspective. So yes, I know what scene you're talking about. I have it enough in my eye where it's like, yeah, it's probably a wide enough angle. It's not quite a fisheye, but it's a very wide angle lens. And actually earlier I was reading when I was like exporting something for work. I had 20 minutes to kill. I was like reading an interview with the editor for The Favorite because I'm very interested in a lot of the camera work. Although again, like I only made it about half hour because that's what happens. Like, I'm at the age where if it's after like 11 o'clock and I like sit down and watch television, I'm done. But so I was reading some stuff about the editor, but it led me to a couple other articles, and they're also talking about the costuming, and very specifically, like everything, it's based off something, but it's like kind of a hyper realistic interpretation. So yeah, so like even like there are a lot of weird camera angles, the editing perspectives, like there are some straightforward scenes, but like there's some really interesting editing going on, interesting camera work. The kitchen maids, their dresses were made of denim.
Yeah, no, okay, that's great you mentioned that because I was wondering. I'm like, are they okay? So I knew there was some anachronistic sort of aspects of it, which didn't bother me because like even like the upper classes, their costumes look to be oftentimes sort of synthetic. I actually love the design, like because a lot of times people think, oh, it's not historically accurate, I don't like it, but this is purposeful. It's done with purpose. And the other thing is, it's interesting because I find like I don't know about what you guys think in the chat or Rebecca or John, what you think, but I find like that's like my least favorite era. One of my least favorite eras for costumes, like. Actually, while I was watching it, I said to Jack, oh my God, like this stuff is so outrageous. Like the wigs that the men wear and the makeup. And I think it's called a fontage or something that the tall hats that the women would have worn.
Oh, right.
And it's sort of like late 1600s. It's kind of like around
this is like early 1700s.
Early 1700s. So it's just after Restoration, and it's just to me is a really kind of ugly period. But I loved Sandy Powell's design because I thought it was like super outrageous, especially when it's cold.
And I think that's like it's purposely like honing in on that. And there is like that genre of filmmaking where it's like very specific to that time period, or like maybe a little bit later, like the Barry Lyndons, and oh God, there's this one director whose name I'm just not.
Yeah, and that would have been like Stanley Kubrick, right? Like Barry Lyndon.
Well, yeah, but there's another director who like very specialized in the kind of period pieces where it's not quite like the Dangerous Liaison period. Or Amadeus period. It's like a little bit after that, and everything's garish.
Amadeus, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that name in a while. Like, what a film! What a film!
Right? Like Baroque is kind of a little bit over, like it's a little over the top,
and everything's garish and over the top, and I think everything that he was doing. Making that film, like from the camera angles, like to the lenses, like everything is just like a hyper. It's like hyper realistic, and where it's like off kilter, which is like it's supposed to be.
I love also that they have like that one outfit that Queen Anne wears when she goes riding, and that is. I said to Jack, I'm pretty sure that's a complete, like, what do you call it? Steampunk kind of version of maybe what, it's sort of a brace so that she could, but also that they have the women riding the horses like full saddle rather than side saddle, wearing leggings, like wearing knickers rather than wearing, skirts. I love that. I love that. And so I think that's what it was. Because like I said, I just watched it last night. It just felt very outrageous, exaggerated.
Yes.
I love how the men were oftentimes more feminine than the women even.
Yes.
But that's
so from that period, I like this show. BBC came out with this like 7-part show a couple years back. Do you ever see Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell?
Oh, I started.
They had some cool costumes and a lot of magic in there. I loved that.
Yeah, that's still a little bit later.
Is that later?
Time period wise, so that's probably more like early 1800s.
Yeah, because they had like the wigs and stuff, but they kind of made him pull it off as best as I had ever seen so far.
It's funny because it
was really dark though. It was really dark.
Yeah. But as far as like the the Queen Anne period, like that's not a period that you see a lot.
It's true.
Like for American stuff, like, you know, like there were people here by that time, but like, you know, it wasn't as much of an establishment. It's just a weird period. Even at some point I was like, before when the movie came out, I was like, wait, was there a Queen Anne? And looked it up, and it's like, oh right, there was a Queen Anne. And then,
yeah,
you know,
and I mean, there are some
period.
historical accuracies regarding, like, you know, how many miscarriages she had, and I mean, it's
Oh,
really
yeah,
a lot of it's really she probably had postpartum like psychosis or something.
Yeah, I mean, even if she had half of the miscarriages that the film said, because 17, well, or between miscarriages and children that died afterwards,
Stillborn, or yeah,
17 children. And it's
yeah.
like, how can you be pregnant 17 times?
Well, it's funny. We were talking about Anne with an E earlier. So one of the characters in the movie,
yeah,
I'm just thinking about it. I just 17 times.
It's crazy. John, in Anne with an E, Rachel Lynn has in the show, she's had 20 children, and 2 of them have died, and she sort of just talks about it like nonchalantly, like, yeah,
That's
you
weird.
know, the 2 of them died.
See, I'm not really a history guy. I'm like becoming a history guy, but like, how did they actually deliver babies back then? Was it some of the movies, like you have the women like standing up on the board and the baby would like fall out? Like, I like ancient history. I don't like a lot of the kind of medieval stuff. I don't know. How did they actually deliver the babies like 17 times, if possible?
They show it in, actually, they do a good job of it in Outlander. They show her birthing a baby. She's standing. Yeah. And actually,
so they really stand them up, and they just have the midwives like holding them.
Yeah,
they're just like crying and sweating, and
yeah, they sort of support them. And there's actually there's a movie called Perfume. There's a scene. She's like what do you call it? A person who works at the Barrows, or she's like selling goods or whatever in the market, and she basically kind of has a baby. A baby drops out of her, and she sort of kicks it to the side. It's like, oh, another baby. Sort of, it's very Monty Python, you know, like.
Linda R has visited some castles, so I have
Very
had
cool.
the great pleasure in 2007 and 2008 to visit Austria, and I went through some castles. I could grab some pictures too and share them actually if we have a minute. And I have to tell you, when you go in those castles, the extravagance absolutely blows you away. I mean, Google does not do it well. I mean, it is crazy the amount of money and extravagance that these kings and queens and lords stayed in. And I think that's why a lot of these fantasy series are kind of based in this time. And George R. R. Martin had this cool interview I was watching the other day where he said, like, I don't intend the vibe of this story to be like medieval England. It's just the fact when you have a bunch of rich kings and queens that are doing fucked up shit, it's going to end up like this. And that's basically what these extravagant kings and queens were all about, just like doing fucked up shit. And when you walk into these castles, I don't know if you ladies have ever gone on any of these tourist things, when you walk in, it just blows your mind. Like, the buildings in 2020 don't have like that extravagance. Just when you have these rich families just incest and hoarding money and the extravagance, it blows you away. And it seems like a lot of these castles are 1700s castles. Was this still a thing in the 1600s as well? Like, I'm like, Linda, like how was that castle, like Blenheim Palace?
There's a difference between a castle and a palace.
There we go.
Castle is a little bit more designed to be a fortress, where a palace is a little bit like comes later on, where you're not building the same kind of defense systems. So palaces then end up becoming these luxurious homes. But there's a good series on Netflix about like the Great British Castles. And actually, like, you can see like some of like Gurm's like influences about like the way castles are designed. Castles are designed like they're designed like forts, but then at some point into like whomever the ruling family is, whether it's like an actual king or queen or if it's just the ruling family of the area. Then there's some luxury, but a palace is just a mansion on like crazy steroids. So sorry.
No, it's really cool. No, I'm becoming like a history person. Like in the past few weeks, I'm really getting into this stuff because for me, I always thought ancient history was just so distant, so really cool. But even when you get to 16, 17, 1800, just all the incest, all the wars, all the dynasties, it is so crazy and it's so fun. And just even some of these series you watch on Netflix and stuff, they do more to teach you history than actually the schools do. And now, like, you know, my little nephew, he's learning so much online at home now that his teachers are barely even teaching him. Like, he's like, wow, a lot of these videos are great. Like, a lot of these series really teach you about history because it's so visual and so cool. Like, history is pretty cool. I sound so cheesy, but
yeah, like even a show like The Tudors that has sort of made it's sort of like a bit of a soap opera, but there are so many aspects of that are actually true, which is like I go back and I'm like, one of the things I
don't think Rebecca likes The Tudors.
I love.
No, she loves The Tudors. But one of the shows I did a review of was Reign, and one of the things. And one of the things I thought was so weird, like, so for instance, in real life, Mary, Queen of Scots, she had like all her handmaidens' names were Mary, which would have been like a biblical, given like a given name, a biblical name that would have been given to them. Like my mother's middle name is Mary. So everyone would have had Mary. So they're all called Mary. And then, but for some reason on the show, they gave them all these different names. And I'm like, but wouldn't it have been awesome if all of their names had been Mary? Like the real life thing I thought was more interesting because it had been Mary.
The whole Reign, to be fair, is that was definitely like made for like a young adult audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that would have been something like, when like they're trying to cater to like 13, 14-year-olds, like that's something that would have flown over their head. I tried watching Reign because like in a way that's up my alley, but also like I don't watch like teen shows. Just like everything was like free people, like all the like outfits, and just like at some point it was like, oh no, I can't, like I know I'm really an adult now because I can't watch this show.
Well, I have a lot of viewers that loved it, and that's cool. But I think what I said about it was, because everything's bought off the rack, it's all ordered online. She basically ordered everything off of,
really?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it looked like free people.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what I said was, okay, I know it's catered to 13, 14-year-olds, but I like it sometimes if producers and creators would give some credit to young people and say, well, maybe they want to see what it actually looked like. I mean, some people were like, oh, the clothes back then were so ugly. I'm like, well, okay, well, you think they're ugly. But on The Tudors, for instance, a lot of the costumes on that show, some of them weren't, but a lot of them were actually historically accurate, and they came out of the BBC wardrobe.
Yeah.
And which had been used in a lot of historical. It was actually the BBC. They were one of the first producers to actually do costumes that were historically accurate.
Right. Because they had access.
They had access, and they had, and like for instance, so Elizabeth R. I talked about this in my Reign video, was one of the very first BBC shows that was ever done where they took like paintings of Elizabeth the First, and then they actually reproduced her costumes for the show and for the movie. I think it would have been a BBC Masterpiece Theater series. And then a lot of those costumes were then used in The Tudors. So they were historically accurate. And they made some decisions, like with the men, they didn't want them in pumpkin pants, as I call them, or those like pants and slops, trunk hose. They put them in knickers instead, or leather knickers, which is fine. That was a design decision. But I actually, so you have a show like The Tudors, which for the most part is historically accurate, and then you have something like Reign, which isn't. And I kind of found it disappointing, like on a costume level.
Yeah.
I don't know if Linda's seen it. She loved Victoria and the Crown, she said.
Oh my God, Victoria.
For me, any production that has authentic costumes just gets an A+ for me. I love that. Like even something like something like a Passion of the Christ or something like that. Anything that has authentic costumes, I think that can bring life to something that you would usually read on a piece of paper just is awesome. And fantasy sort of does it, but when you have the real thing and a real good costume designer and a historian do the research and really get the right materials and the right costume and the right sound, the right animals, what they ate, that is great. And that helps us learn history.
Or even something like, The Favorite that we're talking about, like nothing is like technically historically accurate, but they had such respect for what was accurate and then how they added to it to kind of give it that off kilter. Like everything like came from like, all right, this is what's historically accurate, and this is how we're going to add the extra element to do what we're trying to do. I mean,
like Abraham Lincoln killing vampires.
Well, and Sandy Powell, she's a very she's a very experienced costume designer and has won many awards. So it was, if it had been done by somebody who wasn't as skilled as she is, it could have been terrible. But because she's so skilled and knowledgeable, and she knows the period, this is the thing I always say. Like, John, you would probably understand that. Like, if you have an understanding for something and then you break the rules, it's a totally different thing than if you just don't know the rules to begin with. So this is what I said about Rain. I felt like with Rain, she didn't really have a sense of what the design was supposed to be. She was just like, I'm going to put some pretty dresses on some people. And she didn't anchor it in anything. And it's the same thing with any aspect of a film production. If you don't anchor it in something, in some type of theme or mood or texture or color palette or what have, however you want to go about it, then it's not going to come across correctly. And that's why I think that The Favorite was a huge success. And I love
that's a big issue with music too. I mean, with music, that's a huge issue because you could have, and for me as a composer, one of the first things I do is decide what the soundscape is. So you could have a scene in Egypt. So you're going to say, am I going to research what the actual instruments were in the time of Egypt and use that sound? Is that really going to work? Or am I just going to create a quote-unquote ancient sound using certain tricks? Or am I going to use modern music in this scene to create something unique? Or am I going to create a combination of these things? Or am I going to use half Egyptian music, half Egyptian instruments, half Western instruments? Music, this is a big deal. And Game of Thrones did that really well, where like every different region had different instruments and a different soundscape. So any creator working in a historical drama or something like that, that's almost a fun thing. And there's a lot of music composers that would get kind of some slack on that. One of my favorite composers, John Williams, is kind of known as the old white guy. And people would say, hey, how come all the bad guys get Middle Eastern sounding music? What are you, racist or something? Well, it's like, these are decisions that a lot of composers have to make, where it's like, hey, do I write Chinese sounding music because there's a Chinese person on screen, or do I write dramatic music, or am I going to have a gong hit because there's a samurai on the screen? So these are creative decisions that directors make and musicians make, and obviously it seems costume designers make, that can really make or break a piece. And you never know how the viewer is going to like it. In Game of Thrones, just the strings happen to work. I mean, were there strings in this time? No. In certain in Outsiders, an electronic sound worked really well. In the Planet of the Apes movies, they had these kind of wild drums that kind of reminded you of the apes.
Oh my God, John, we'll have to do Planet of the Apes. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, and that's one where the experiment worked, and they said, hey, are the viewers going to like this? Are they not? Are they going to think it's cheesy? Or like E.T.? Like, you have this ugly alien with a beautiful symphonic soundtrack. Does that work?
Not ugly.
He is adorable.
You have this beautiful, but take the music out, and it's pretty hideous.
When the eyes are that big, that's automatically like cute.
John, I'm just gonna duck out for a few minutes here.
Yeah, go ahead. I can do the magic move here, where I will just remove you. It'll be Rebecca and me. Hello, hello. Well, I was actually, you got me thinking of E.T. I was going to whip up the old E.T. flying theme. This is one of the greatest pieces of film music ever.
And actually, I did watch The Favorite for a half hour, and I think you should, like, if we get done with this stream and you have HBO, like, watch it. There's some really interesting music cues. So, like,
in The Favorite? Jeez, it's not even on my radar, but it's on my radar now. Because that's what I put a challenge out like 45 minutes ago. I said, give me something to watch. And I guess The Favorite.
But, it's only on HBO until midnight, I guess.
That's what it is. Oh, I see it here. Ah, interesting. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, these costumes look.
Yeah. And it's like this, like, very hyper realistic. It's like everything's like overwrought. It's garish, but like as Heidi was saying, like it was a garish time period, and they're pushing it. So
and HBO just has a lot of money to be able to throw at these projects, so I'm sure it's produced.
I mean, like they HBO didn't make it.
Oh, they didn't make. So who actually produced it?
I mean, it's Yargos, the guy that did The Lobster, and it was like Olivia Colman won the Oscar for that part.
Oh, it's with an OU? Oh my gosh. Ah, The Favorite. So this one here is 2018. Okay. By Yorgos Lanthimos?
Yes.
Perfect. Ah, yes. So it's on HBO now, but it was originally over.
Oh yeah, it was a theatrical. Fox and they shot 35 millimeter.
Wow. Written by. There's no composer listed, so I think they might just have like. Oh, here we go. Soundtrack.
No,
they take Baroque classical music.
There's definitely music.
Elton John. Oh, so they license some music. They have a few composers, probably like licensing guys. Oh, that's cool.
Well, you gotta.
Much of the music appears to be contemporaneous with the time in which the film is set was composed later. Very interesting. Bach's organ. Oh yeah, because Bach was a composer in the late 1600s. Schubert.
Yeah, because it's like it takes place early 1700s. But there's one piece, like there's one theme that they play throughout.
They have a main theme.
No, it's not a main theme. It's like kind of like their tension theme. That is.
Oh, it's kind of like probably what the Outsiders is doing, right? Like a sound where something's about to go down.
I mean, it's definitely music.
Or something like a motif or something that kind of catches the listener's attention a little bit. So they're hour-long episodes?
No, The Favorite's a movie.
Oh, so it's just one movie?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I'll just watch that tonight then.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm just going to watch it.
Really good.
So it's a full movie. Okay, that's definitely going to have a proper soundtrack then.
Yeah. All right, so you were looking at something else.
No, I was at first, but now I'm on The Favorite with an OU, and I see it right here. Yeah, because that name you told me popped up, the Yorgos Lanthimos. Yeah, I'm on it now. It's bookmarked. It's saved. I'm going to watch it. So this is good.
But I'm excited. Only tonight, because I know it's leaving.
Shit. Well, no, I got HBO. So I got HBO on demand. I mean, I hope it's on demand.
Yeah, it will, but only tonight.
I might use some subjective methods to get it.
Oh, or you can do that.
No, never. Always pay for your content.
Yeah,
folks.
no, pay for your content.
Pay for your streaming because...
Including porn, guys. Pay for your porn.
Yeah, hey, I got to tell you I'm not going to tell you what, but in my early music composer career, I may have done a few porn jingles. I'm not ashamed of it. Whatever. You got to pay people. People make that stuff, all right? So buy your porn, buy your movies, buy your TV shows, buy your DVDs. Fucking don't be downloading anything illegally. Yeah, you can DVR it tonight. I do use DVR. I just recently switched to a all internet-based home entertainment system. I cut cable recently, so I got DVR. I got all that stuff. Peter Griffin, thank you for that. And we have Heidi. She's back. I think Heidi took 2 or 3 shots or something. What? No, you're probably watching your kids, right? They've been home for 2 or 3 weeks. So.
Oh yeah.
How's everything going, Heidi? I think you're muted. Welcome back.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, it's sort of funny. We were just talking about this, but my son, my 11-year-old, is watching Lord of the Rings with his dad. He's never
See? Maybe it's a guy thing. No, but I'm telling you, Lord of the Rings is great. Which one is he watching?
The first one. What's the first one called?
Is he watching the extended edition? Because I watched the extended editions out of all of them, and I don't know, Rebecca, you noticed this, that cuts are longer. There's a more B-roll. There's the costumes there's a lot more like little scenes of little villages and stuff. The extended editions are great. They're long, but they're great.
I haven't because what I have on what I got on iTunes is the extended edition.
Nice.
And honestly, I've only watched them a couple of times, so I couldn't.
I'm not sure what they're watching, and they've got we've got the Blu-ray edition.
Oh, it's probably the best of the best.
Yeah.
So probably extended edition, but
the first one is awesome.
My funny story about Lord of the Rings, because I like Lord of the Rings. I don't have the same thing about it that I have with Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, but I left a therapist. I was going to this therapist. I was kind of, in a little bit of a crisis mode. And then I got through it. And then I was just going to this therapist. And one day I go to his office and we were having that 5-minute chit chat before the session started. And he was talking about he was watching TV and Lord of the Rings was on. He's like, I just don't understand why people watch this. And I'm like, that particular genre? Because I can understand if someone's not into fantasy. And he's like, I don't understand why people watch anything like this, television. I was like, I don't know if you should be my therapist right now. Considering this, well, I mean, I don't do Lord of the Rings, but that's what I do. But yeah.
No, this kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier. Do the personal views of someone affect their overall character? I think absolutely. Maybe someone that doesn't understand fantasy might not relate to you personally.
And
Who knows?
This is not a judgment on his character. I was just this is
just an observation.
Not the person where even at one point, he gave me a lot of reading homework, but it was also at a point where it's I can't do all this.
This is a problem I've always had in my life, Peter Griffin, too. And that's why I love this online thing. We could connect with people that like our stuff. But the same thing, I've never met someone that, people were kind of into Harry Potter when I was in school. Lord of the Rings came out and we liked watching the sword fights. But I never had friends that were really into fandom, really into something, that were making theories and obsessed. I had maybe one or two people, but when this online stuff started to become big and Facebook groups, that's when I connected with a lot of people and that liked my interests. I have a lot of sports friends or family friends, but with fandom stuff for me, it's mostly online, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's actually, it's funny, someone lent me a book about autism because my son has autism, and I was reading it, and they were saying that before we had these Comic-Cons and things like that, there was this guy who had autism, and he it was really organic how he sort of started a community about it. And I'm sorry if I'm getting some of this wrong. I think it might have been the publication might have been Amazing Stories. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But what he did is he started getting people sort of doing meetups, which would have been back in maybe the 70s and the 80s, to do meetups before we would have a Comic-Con type thing. And he did it through a series of newsletters because we wouldn't have had social media back then. But I thought it was really neat. So, this behind the scenes about this person who has autism, because my son is he's got a YouTube channel, and he's, he is really creative. And a lot of people with autism, obviously, or on the spectrum, obviously can be extremely creative as well. So I thought that it sounds like it's always sort of been there. And I've been doing research on Star Wars because I'm doing a video on Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers, which is so crazy. It's because it's a movie that's over 40 years old, and trying to find the information. But there used to be a newsletter called, I think it was called Bantha Tracks. And I remember my brother used to get it, and it would come in the mail, and it would just be like I don't know, like almost look like it was photocopied kind of thing and maybe stapled together. And it would be just sort of like geeky information. And then I remember I was a member of the Star Wars fan club. This would have been in like 1977, 78. And I would get, they would send me, I had a membership, and they would send me pictures pretty decent. And so I think long before I think it's always been around is what I'm trying to say, but it until we've had this sort of like
it definitely
platform.
has. You had to find it. Like I used to subscribe to magazines.
Don't drink and stream, everybody. Don't drink and stream, kids.
Bye, Linda. By the way, Linda said she was heading out. We're gonna send you out with the Lord of the Rings.
Bye. I love Linda. By the way, she we had a stream on my channel, and I was giving away a game and wanted that. So really
we're gonna send you out with the Hobbit music because she's gonna watch the news. We're gonna give her some positive music.
Peter says, "Laters, Linda."
Later.
No, seriously, but Heidi, you are totally right about that. There's always been a place for nerds to hang out and fantasy people, but the internet just does an awesome thing. And the Creatives Guild, we were born through the internet, and we will grow through the internet, and it's great. I love it, And George R. R. Martin talks about that all the time. That he used to go to old sci-fi conventions and stuff, and talk about things like that. And he would go party.
There's so many pictures of him at like the original like World Cons, and
I think he's like a fan. I think he is just as much of a fan as we are.
He is a big fan.
He's just a regular nerd. He just happened to become famous, and that's probably very overwhelming for him.
I know we've talked about
this. He's just a simple guy. He just drives a Buick, doesn't he?
But ideally,
he has a purple Tesla.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he has a purple Tesla. So
that's so hilarious.
He's such a weird character.
I know we've talked about this before, and I know we're happy being a trio, but I still would love if we could have a writer.
Got to find one. Yeah, I mean, we'd love to.
I'm relying on Rebecca to do that for us.
Well,
I think we came close once, right? But they're always busy working on projects, right?
Yeah. He is very, very busy working on projects, and like very busy with two very young children.
We love hearing that. We would love hearing though someone is doing really well. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep working, but you're always welcome in the Creatives Guild. Come on in. We need some writers or some. Even if you worked on one small project, even if you wrote just a local play or something, come on in.
I'm writing a project right now, but
you are.
Yeah.
Oh, tell us more. Can you tell us more? Are you under an NDA?
I will tell the two of you more offline, but
offline. We'll see it.
It's like the pilot project I've been working on, so.
That's so exciting.
Gotta love pilots. Everybody works so hard, and then it just goes into a room. Whatever the person
John, are you still drinking coffee?
Oh yeah, a little bit of coffee. I also drink,
like Heidi and I are like.
I drink water with coffee.
No.
I'm not a big drinker. I do partake in some herbal substances, but I'm not a big drinker. If I go out with some people, I'll drink a little bit, but I drink maybe once, twice, 3 times a year. To be honest, I'm never.
Wow. Okay.
I'm weird. I'm a weird. But I do partake in herbal stuff on a regular basis. I am a musician, so I do need a little bit of creative fuel sometimes. But there you go. Yeah. But I don't smoke tobacco or anything.
It's legal in Canada, John, so I won't judge you. No, we do too. We can buy it from the government. Do you know that? We can actually order it online from the government, and it comes in plain labels. I was going to ask you something about, I forgot. Anyway, never mind. It'll come to me.
What else are you guys watching? I'm currently rewatching Twin Peaks: The Return. I also on HBO watched McMillions.
What's that called?
McMillions.
McMillions.
So that is another, and I'm surprised it hasn't gotten as much more buzz than it has. It is remember the McDonald's Monopoly game?
Yes.
So for for years there was like basically like a low-level organized crime ring that was rigging the whole thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have to watch it. So is that on HBO?
It's on HBO. It's
Okay,
called
McMillions. Yeah, Peter McMillions was something else, laugh out loud. And he said he just finished Ozark.
Oh yeah, I have not watched like I saw the first season of Ozark. It's
Yeah, me
great.
too.
But I know people are like the third season just came out and like people are.
You know what? To be honest with you, it really stresses me out. I don't know if
Well, the thing about Ozark, it's like everything. Again, it's like kind of a hyper realistic. Like there's no scene that is not in that like oversaturated like blue tone, and you don't feel relief.
Yeah. You don't have that catharsis.
Yeah, or even like, like there's not like even like The Sopranos or The Wire still had like you still felt like you like had some like normal like filler scenes and Ozark has it, but the look about it's so intense at all times. Like it's good.
I don't know if you guys have seen Uncut Gems. I tried to watch it.
Not yet, and everyone
I tried to watch it. And I love Adam Sandler. Like I loved him in what's the one where he's wearing the blue suit? Punch Drunk Love. I loved him in that. I even liked him in there's one where he's got like an Italian, I think a Spanish maid. And
I know.
Well done.
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen that one.
And
John's internet dropped out.
Oh no, is that what's going on? I thought he just took himself out of the picture. John, come back, for God's sakes.
Right.
Stream still holding up? Hell yeah. Of course.
Stream right now. Cheers,
we're like cheers, darling. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody.
Happy Tuesday. No, I remember what I was going to ask John, because John's been on a weight loss journey. So have I. I was going to ask him how his weight loss is going, because I had no idea that he had lost a lot of weight, but I have lost 37 pounds.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know you can't tell. I was just like, where was it? Well, it was there. It's mostly in my body.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I lost a pound today. So despite the pandemic, despite being stuck at home and not getting out as much, today I was like, oh my God, I've lost another pound. I couldn't believe it. And so it's because I'm doing this keto diet. But what I'm doing keto.
So my friends are doing keto right now as well, and
it's amazing. But what I've been doing is, like, say if I want an alcoholic drink, I drink grain alcohol, or I drink like this is a low carb wine. It's just like a 2, like you do get like a 2 or 3, and you just have to like in the LCBO in Ontario. If you go, it'll show you what the sugar content is. So, or I just do vodka. And Jack, actually, my husband bought me these. They're not that great, but you can get, like, if you just have it with soda water, you just add like a Crystal Light or something, and then it's kind of like a cocktail.
Sure.
Or you could do Bloody Mary, Bloody Caesar, which is a Canadian. So, which is in Canada, we have what's called a Bloody Caesar, which is clamato juice, and it's a Canadian cocktail. So, no Taco Tuesday, off day rules. I will do Taco Tuesday, but what I do is I do a taco bowl instead of having a taco. So my kids will have tacos, and then I'll just do a taco bowl. So I'll have like ground meat, and then I'll have
lettuce and
tomato and the salsa and all that. And so it's been really going really well. So even during this pandemic, like I kind of fell off the wagon. Jack and I watched, it's usually regarding a movie. We watched John Wick. Number 3, which was so good, by the way.
Yeah.
And he had like a chocolate.
All right, I'm back. I don't know what the hell happened, but I'm so proud of StreamYard, because I was thinking, because I was hosting it, that it would have dropped out. I think it was just a pandemic lockdown internet dropout or something. That's weird. I got great internet, but I'm glad you ladies just held it down. Thank you.
Well, no,
so much better without me. I'm just gonna quit.
No, what I was actually, John, I had remembered what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you how your weight loss is going. I was just telling Rebecca about my weight loss. So, how's your weight loss been going?
I don't know. Maybe the government's watching us. We were starting to talk about marijuana, right? And then it cut us off. No, well, the weight loss. I don't know. It's kind of peaked. I've definitely am where I am at. So now I'm just maintaining what I need to I'm just developing a new habit of a good diet. So I changed.
Awesome.
Now the diet is not changed anymore. It's basically I'm just developing a diet. Because if I cheat, if I get some more carbs than I'm used to, I blow right up. So I basically peaked. I lost like basically 60 pounds, and now I'm just developing I'm just maintaining the lifestyle now. Yeah, it's been great. I feel great.
No, I told Rebecca that I've lost 37 pounds.
Oh, that's awesome. But
yeah,
I started the stream saying I'm just kind of aching. I like to go to the gym. That's part of it. I haven't gone to the gym.
Exactly. So you're not having the movement. But I was watching John Wick, and Jack had like this. I don't know if you guys have these in Canada and America, but we have these giant like chocolate bars. They're big, like probably like a pound or two. And then he had like chocolate almond bar. So this giant chocolate bar, and it was just as the pandemic was starting, and I'm watching John Wick, and it's already kind of stressful. And then, just the stress of the pandemic. And I ended up eating half of that chocolate bar, this giant chocolate bar. And I just kind of like went downhill that night. But then the next day I woke up, I felt like I had a hangover. Honestly, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Like a sugar hangover.
Yeah, but I ate like a Pop-Tart yesterday, a pack of Pop-Tarts, and I had trouble sleeping, my stomach, or I got a headache. It's just like I have to maintain this certain just like chicken and vegetables. Like I don't have an exotic diet. I mean, now health food seems to be pretty tasty. Like even to go through the frozen food aisle, some of the stuff they have is like, all right, not bad. These are pretty good,
Funny enough, that's not what they're out of right now.
No.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm getting a lot of the beans and stuff I eat. They're all there, but no, it's going well.
So, but what I did was I was talking to another guy named Ken. He's also, he does keto, and he's a YouTube creator, and he's lost 50 pounds. And he goes, oh yeah, I had a tortilla shell or something. I'm like, you know what? I just decided not to beat myself up about it. So the next day I just kind of got back to my normal diet. And it's funny. We were saying I went to the grocery store, and they were out of all frozen vegetables, but they had spinach, they had Brussels sprouts, and they had, cauliflower rice. And I'm like, oh, this is great. These are the types of foods that I eat. So I bought those items. So I basically just eat 2 meals a day. I don't know if you do this, John. I eat like just dinner. I eat lunch and dinner. That's all I eat. But I eat a good sized meal. So anyway, I'm not starving. I did, I had a mistake that I paid for.
So Rebecca, have you always like been in pretty good shape your whole life? Are you one of those?
Oh no.
Be confident. You don't have to be ashamed. I mean, you're in great shape. You look great.
Yeah, I was calling her legs, her arms gams, but they're not gams.
But I work at it. Like
she does.
Yeah. I don't work hard all the time. Like, no, but I like work at it. And top of the body is different than the body.
That's hilarious.
I definitely had to, just for my own sanity, like the thing like for the last couple weeks, because I've been on lockdown a little bit longer than other people have. I had like a little period where I was like, oh my God, am I sick? Am I not sick? And then it was like right before, and we just had to do a test to get us all set up working remotely. So I did the test, and I had to force myself to like go on walks every day, force myself to exercise. It's the only way to have like just give myself a schedule other than like doing work at my computer and sitting down. And like honestly, like this is the longest I've been sitting in a chair, because I have a timer when I work where I like get up every 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
Like walk around and just, get out and move my body for like 10 minutes.
No, it's a big deal. Like because I sit at the computer, I'm just composing. So I have these wrist problems, but I got this wrist support now, and I got this lumbar support. I mean, that stuff's so important. Like the fresh air, the window. A lot of people now are being forced to work from home, and to be honest, the future is working from home. I listened to the Sam Harris podcast, and he had the founder of WordPress on a couple days ago, and he was talking about the future of work, how he's got tens of thousands of distributed employees that he's paying great salaries. They just work from home and they make their own hours, and like it doesn't work for everyone, but more we've been forced, companies have been forced into it now. We're realizing that it's great. I mean, in my opinion, I did some uncling in the beginning of the pandemic when some of my family was figuring out childcare stuff. And I felt that the kid was learning much better at home with his screen. Just he was learning perfectly fine. He gets enough social interaction at family and church. Like I think he's doing perfectly fine. I think my brother, he's an accountant. He's been working from home. I think in many ways it is the future. I'm a rare case. I'm a rare case. I always work from home, but I think a lot of more people are doing it. And
how old's your nephew?
so well, I got two. So the one that I was babysitting was 11. The one that's on his own and he just can kind of hang out for most of the day. He's 16. So he can kind of be cool. But the 11-year-old, he does need to be watched like once in a while. So he's still in that. He's still a kid, basically.
That's my son's age. My son's 11.
He's still a kid. But he's ready to blossom.
Yeah. I work in my day job. One of my clients is a office real estate, and industrial or like corporate real estate. And this is what definitely the move is towards remote work. That's definitely for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I work from home.
I've been doing it.
Say that you have to be a certain type of person to be able to work from home. And I think it's maybe because I am a little bit of an introvert. Actually, I'm not. I'm an extrovert, but I kind of like my own company. And I think if you don't like your own company, you might have a little bit of a problem with it. As I was saying earlier, when I was younger, I probably could have had no problem staying home during a pandemic and just playing with my Barbies and doing my drawing or being creative. But it does require a certain amount of discipline, I think, and it's difficult. So, sorry, Rebecca, you can say what you want.
I guess like I work in a medium where there's some weeks it's like, oh my God, if I can just like do work for a week and not be around everybody who has like opinions and thoughts and like give me a week to work. But then after a bit, it's like, no, like I'm at the point, it's a collaborative effort, no matter what it is. And the only problem about like working at home is like, all right, like I have to do things and I have to stop and I have to post, as opposed to like have someone sit with me and like we can do it together. I feel like right now it just like takes twice the amount of time. That's the only problem.
John, sorry, I was laughing. Rebecca's sorry. He was saying how many drinks are in Heidi. Am I coming across like I'm
no, you're great. I just saw you take that long swig, and I said, "Whoa! It looks like she's done with it." Is that her first, second, third?
It's a spritzer. I actually cut it with Perrier.
I guarantee you, I've had more to drink than Heidi. So.
I'm thinking, oh my God, am I coming across like wasted or something?
Never.
I'm having so much fun.
This is a great time because we're all cooped inside, so that's why we put this Quaranstream together.
Yes,
I'm having a lot of fun. I mean, it's great. The Creatives Guild, we are here.
It's kind of funny. This is probably in the last like 3 weeks. This is maybe like the second time I've gotten drunk.
Yeah. I actually, Jack and I think, what time was it? We were watching something and we were watching Dr. Sleep, which is so good. I think I told you guys that. And I had a couple of drinks and then I just was like, I totally passed out. Like I was like, oh. But, I'm still working. Like this is the thing. Like I get kind of mad. I don't know if you guys find this because I know the three of you are still doing some work. John, maybe not as much, but there are all these people online who are like, oh, I have nothing to do. So I'm baking and I'm cleaning my fridge and I'm learning all these things that I never had a chance to learn. Meanwhile, my house is a disaster. Yeah. Okay. My kids are always asking me for something to eat. And like, the dishwasher never gets emptied. And
right.
So I'm kind of like, I don't have all this extra time. I'm still working my day job. And then I'm trying to do my YouTube at night.
And now, now your kids are home.
They're home, yeah.
So, your husband, you tape them to the floor like that meme?
Exactly. It is not. It's different.
So Jack today took the kids out for a walk. It was really nice. He took them out, and I'm like, I messaged my sister, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm by myself for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna have like no noise.
It's so crazy. I follow a few like moms on Facebook because like all my friends, like they just a lot of them have kids. So, and it's just the moms are just the funniest people. Like, oh my God, I have 20 fucking minutes to myself. Yes, like they get all excited and they have these mom memes, and it's just funny. Like power to the moms.
Yeah,
you guys are. I had no idea how precious free time is to the mom.
Last week, both the kids, like John's birthday is tomorrow. John, what are you doing for your birthday, by the way?
Yeah, where are you?
Well, I mean, I usually go out with some friends and have a good time, but there's like
are you like doing a Zoom call or like?
There's not much to do. I'm gonna just have a normal day. I mean, it's really locked down around here. I mean, I'm not.
Like, you can like do a Zoom chat.
Yeah.
I might do something online.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm not sure.
Do a stream tomorrow, John, on your channel. I'll come on.
I know I haven't done much on the John Del Vento channel. I should do a
happy birthday stream, and we'll all come and visit you. And
I should do that,
you should.
Because I'm just.
Sontavia says technically I work an 8-hour day still.
And that's the thing. A lot of people are still working. Yeah. Like my friend
I work till 5 every day or 6 sometimes.
My friend works at a car dealership. He's out there still selling cars with gloves on, and I really feel for the grocery store workers. Like
me too.
They even when you look at, I went shopping today and they look pissed off. It's tough, and they're not getting paid great to do what they are. I mean, they need to get paid a lot more to deal with the health concerns that they are.
So today I went on I go on a daily sanity walk, and like today I did it before, I did in the morning before I got going with work, and I walked by 2 big grocery, I did a long walk. I walked by the Park Slope Food Co-op, and it was 9 a.m. and the line was a block long, but everybody was standing 6 feet from everybody else. And then I would walk further down, there was a Whole Foods. Same thing, line, everyone standing 6 feet from everybody else. I have a relatively good sized store for New York standard, and just a couple blocks away, and so far it's been pretty good there.
It's ours has the plexiglass now. Does yours have the plexiglass between the customer now at the cashier?
No, but they have it spaced out, so so they normally have 8 cashiers, but they only have 4 cashiers. And but the line's not usually that long, and everybody seems to be buying a reasonable amount. It's not trying to shop at Costco. So
that was a couple weeks back, right? That was crazy.
Yeah, no, I posted this on Facebook today that I got a call yesterday from my doctor's office, and she was like, oh, I'm just calling about these test results. Now everything was fine, everything's normal, kind of thing. But I said to her, I just want to thank you so much for, everything you guys do. You're still going into work, you're still having to deal with the public. And actually my clinic is in kind of a critical area in my city. It's, a lot of drug users, a lot of people, marginalized people, and so they have to deal with a lot, right? And I just said to her, I really want to thank you. And it was at the beginning of the day, and she says, I really want to, she says, that's so nice that you were thanking me. And because it's the start of the day, it was 9 a.m. And yeah, because they're going to have to go through the rest of the day and deal with stuff. So
no, it's crazy to watch how people
Yeah.
have adapted, how people have gotten more appreciative, people have recognized even the guy taking out the trash, how restaurants have said, hey, if we don't do takeout, we're going to close the doors. People have adapted and people have almost made comedic jokes about it already. So humans are so positive and so fun,
Yeah.
just we are loving people deep down, and I love to see the human ingenuity of, like, even my local sandwich shop. Like, they tore out half their window and put a little canopy outside, so now they're doing like drive up service, and they're so, like, all these little things. And like now we're realizing, wow, grocery store employees really work their asses off. Wow, the garbage man, he always shows up every Thursday. Wow, when I turn my faucet on, the water comes out. Like, we're really appreciating people more. And I do see more people out at the park now when I'm driving. I don't know if they're supposed to do that, but people are playing with their. So it always takes one of. I know you probably heard your favorite newscaster say this line, but it always takes a crisis sometimes to bring people together, or a tragedy to bring people together. So I've noticed that, but I always
Yeah.
I grew up in a working class family, a lot of union factory workers and stuff. So I always appreciated those people. They always need to get paid more, and those are the people that make the economy work. But it's been tough, but it's been great to watch how the restaurants have adapted. And like my local sandwich shop, it was cool, just the way they set up the window service. You drive up and you just do it. You just go up
Yeah.
and they made it work.
Yeah, like you were talking about the plexiglass, and I actually shared out this article because one of my clients is that I work for. They do food science. It's like Food Science Association, and so I found this article about this one plant that had converted their assembly line to making those plexiglass dividers for grocery stores. And I have, and I kind of have a feeling this might stay after the pandemic, but just creating a little bit of a barrier between the cashier and the customer. And so I'm noticing a lot of the stores are putting this in. So this, some of these companies are like converting. Like, for instance, in Canada, we have a company called Bauer. I think it's Canadian. They make hockey masks. So now what they're doing is they're moving over to making masks, like shields for doctors. They wear the mask and then they wear the plastic shield. So it just sort of makes sense that they make hockey shields, and now they're going to move over into making shields for healthcare practitioners. So I thought that was a really cool thing. I think we're going to see some of that happening.
Well, there was a big thing that, like, a GE plant, like, apparently, like, the workers walked off in a strike because they're there to, like, build engines for, like, jets, and that's all put on hold right now. And so they're just sitting there, and they've been, like, getting laid off, where, like, they're able to, like, convert their factories to, like, make ventilators.
So
Yeah.
We need right now. And
it's noble, and it's funny because, like, these people are standing up. Oh, I'm making masks for the country. They were also forced to do it because the president used the Defense Production Act. I mean, so whenever the president does that, they force them to do it.
It's like the actual ventilators, and it's like, but GE plants have.
The Dyson guy made some ventilators too, I guess, and it's just.
Well, but it's basically like GE is laying off workers.
It's a weird issue.
Work on what they're supposed to be working on, where GE has the technology to be working on ventilators. GE is getting a fucking, government bailout. But
yeah. In Canada, we have
Well, the Amazon workers were walking out too, I heard. I guess I was reading that. So people are pissed.
GM, but
forcing these engineers to make masks
and you guys
ventilators.
And it's like, it's like they're obviously, like, we have to, like, think about our lifestyles, and, like, the fact that people who work at shipping facilities like Amazon are considered essential employees, where people are still buying, like, shit on Amazon, and not just, like, essential needs,
No, but Heidi, I think your original point was very important because I think some things will change after this. I think handshakes are a big one too. I've always thought handshakes were fucking gross. So I think after this, we're not going to do a lot of handshakes.
Well, the last time I saw my dad, who's like 86, we actually
things are going to change.
We just kind of elbow, here you go. Last time I saw him, I think things will change. Like
how about the bow, ladies? I always like the bow. The Japanese figured it out before. I like the bow. I just
saw a picture. I saw this photo of Meghan Markle, and I know a lot of people have criticized her. I love
Meghan Markle.
I love her too. I
have a crush on her.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Anybody that is criticizing Meghan Markle, it's like you have other problems in your life.
Yeah. So, anyways, I saw this picture of her, and some guy was like kissing her, like on the face, and I'd be like, "What? Don't freaking kiss me!" Like, do you know how many people I have to encounter every day? And I'm a little bit like that too. Like, even like with my kids, I try to be. Like, I try not to say to them, "Oh, kiss grandma," or, do this with her. Like, if you want to give grandma a kiss or a hug, that's fine. But my mom actually was the one who told me not to kiss people because she said, if they have a virus or something, you can spread it. So she's the one who taught me that. So I'm
like, I have this like weird mix in my background. My family is very Southern, but I grew up in the Midwest. And that is like very Midwest, like you don't touch people. Like you barely touch the people that you love. And that was like the weirdest thing. Like when I like came to New York as a kid, it was like everyone wanted to hug and kiss, like that you didn't know. It wasn't just like good friends. It was like everybody immediately. And yeah. But I also don't want it like the same like the Midwesterns, like I'm never going to touch you or
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it. And I always thought it was weird. I always thought it was a weird custom. And some cultures don't even do that. They bow or they nod or, and I always thought it was just such a strange thing to do. And so with the exception of my kids, Graydon said to me today or yesterday, "Why do you kiss me on the top of my head?" And I said, "I don't know. I saw it in a movie or something. I thought it was a normal thing to do."
Oh,
I try to tell him I'm an alien. I'm pretending to be his mother.
I don't know. I was very affectionate with like my grandparents, but not affectionate with my parents, my grandparents, and that was it.
Yeah.
But like not all my grandparents, like my mom. Oh God,
Dad's back.
Okay. We were down. We were down like
kicked out. He was just taking a little break.
I might have had to take a break to
this is
Telmus was saying that's a cool thing about Keanu. He never touches a female in photo ops. Have you guys seen that? He just sort of puts.
Oh yeah. He was on that way before. So here's the thing, because sometimes I hang out in some of these I have to go to these stupid Los Angeles conferences and these stupid conventions. I hate doing that stuff, but it is actually a thing in LA. It's been a thing for decades. That some actors, the really good ones that really respect ladies and stuff, they would always open up the hand like that. And like it was always like an inside thing, but Keanu was always known for that. And that's always been a thing. And he was always, and you notice that if you look really closely at actors, you will see like 20% of them do that hand thing, and now you probably never noticed it ever. Like Regis Philbin used to never touch, like sometimes he would do the hand thing. Keanu was known for it. I think, don't quote me, I think Matthew McConaughey does the hand thing. That's always been a thing, even before Me Too, and now Me Too has really highlighted it. But,
you want me to tell you my Matthew McConaughey story?
Oh, yes, Jesus. He didn't touch you, did he?
I know he's got herpes.
No. Oh, no. I was at a sound, like post sound facility, and I was doing a mix on a commercial or something. And one day I was there, and Matthew McConaughey was there, like doing voiceover for something.
Whoa!
And he was holding court in like the kitchen area, with every woman who was around there, including me, and we were just all like,
oh yeah,
I think they're all like that, but when they take pictures, some of them are smart enough to put their hand out. You know,
no, he was telling a story. I can't. Like,
he was
he's
macking
so
it.
charming. He's got that southern charm.
Story from like the last movie he was on.
Do you say all right, all right, all right?
All right.
I mean, this is a long time ago.
My hair, guys.
And of course, like he made eye contact with every woman listening to him.
I would have passed out.
And it was just like that was worth the price of admission.
I have to tell you, my friend Tennille, she is friends with Rachel McAdams, and she was on the set of Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
And she said she got to meet who's the guy who plays Watson.
Jude Law.
She met Jude Law. She said she was actually tongue-tied. She was actually like, "Oh my God, you're so good looking." Like she was just like, "Oh my God." Like she said it was just it's so strange when you meet someone who's like famous like that. She just was kind of beside herself.
I've never had that. I've never had that, man. And
I've only been like that, to be honest with you, twice in my life. One was a ballet dancer from the Australian Ballet. I went over to my brother's place, and his girlfriend, she knew all the Australian ballet dancers. And I walk in, and his name was Guillaume. Oh. And I walked in and I went, "Oh my God, you're so gorgeous." It came out of my mouth, and I couldn't help it. And the second time is I met this guy named Booth Savage, who is in Canada. He's actually kind of a famous actor. But what happened was I was working on a movie, and he was our driver. Like, you have like a, what do you call it? Just a, like a, I can't remember what it's called. It's the driver who takes you to set and all, and back and forth, right?
Chauffeur.
Oh, the
locations or something like that. What they do is they take you from set to the trailer and back, kind of thing. So you load up
the driver.
Dream job. Yeah. I'm living the dream, Mom, in LA.
Yeah. So anyway, so this guy shows up, and I'm like, I know this guy, and it turns out he's an actor. But a lot of people in Canada, if you're a working actor and there's not a lot of work, you'll pick up other work, so you can pick up some on-set jobs. So this is what he did. He was so gorgeous. I was kind of like, I was actually like, like there's just something about, I don't know what it is when you meet someone who is charismatic and really good looking, and it's super shallow. I admit it. It's kind of like that Mary Tyler Moore episode where she's dating a guy who's really good looking, and she admits to him, like, the reason why I'm dating you is because you're really good looking, even though we don't really have a lot in common. And then he says to her, "Well, Mary, I'm dating you because you're really good looking." Of course, she's like, "Really? You think I'm really good looking?" So that's kind of what it was like with this actor.
That's terrible.
So I don't know.
I've never had it.
You've never had it happen with a woman?
Not. I'm just saying with an actor or actress.
Oh, okay.
I've never had it. With an actor, I know we're not supposed to say actress anymore. With actor, I've never had it because I've been lucky to kind of, like Rebecca, like being in the same room once in a while or see an actor once in a while. I've never, for me, because I've been lucky to work on some of these things, I always never got into the whole culture, the Hollywood culture, the LA culture, that vibe. I just was never about it. I never liked it. Sometimes I have to go to these stupid conferences or parties. I just never liked the schmoozing, the fakery. I'm telling you, 99% of them are kind of fake, kind of snobby. I'm generalizing. There's some great actors, but you have to have a certain vibe to want to be an actor and want to be a producer and want to work in showbiz. Yeah. So I like being able to work remotely as a composer, but I'm lucky to work on a lot of projects and meet some of these people. But I just never got starstruck because I'm always like, is this just another snobbish actor? I mean, some of them are cool. A lot of the directors are cooler. Like, I love sitting down and like talking with a director or like an editor or like even a lighting guy. Like, I'll sit down and talk with the lighting person. But for me, actors and actors, I respect them. I respect what they have to do, show up and read a line and get into the character. But I never really cared about autographs or stuff like that too much.
I think probably like I'm just gonna like take you to task because like
go for it.
We are what we do would not be anything without like actors. And like yeah, there are a lot of I understand what you're saying about like not being into like the Hollywood, the fame part of it, but you know, I maybe it's like being in New York and you're like just around a lot of working actors.
Well, that is going away.
Like,
that Hollywood centric thing is going
well,
away.
or like, but a lot of people work in theater and a lot of people like work in education and or like, you know, like not every actor is like a big Hollywood actor or like even like working on a show. Like there's so many actors who hustle the shit out of things. And there are probably more actors trying to hustle than there are composers trying to hustle.
Oh yeah, no,
You know,
I respect any actor, freelancer that hustles.
You know, and
I have to say regarding
this is
who totally like kind of got me all hot and bothered. Part of it was though he was like loading up, like you know we had this car that I had to put all the wardrobe in, and he was helping me. He was like, "Here, let me do it." Like he was like, "I'm going to load up this for you." It was really chivalrous, and I was like, oh my God, not only is this guy stunning and beautiful and just, you know, gorgeous, but he is loading up the car with all of my wardrobe. Yeah. So that just like got my heart aflutter.
Yeah.
So, I know.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's a certain level. And here's the thing. I've had a lot of trouble in the past, like basically 6 or 7 years of my career for like advancement, because there's a certain level in this movie showbiz kind of people. There's when you get to a certain level where you kind of have to go to Los Angeles and you have to get into that culture, you kind of have to succumb to it. And the Me Too really highlighted this, that there is this Hollywood culture where if you want to get the big movie, you have to get into there. And you could stay like an independent actor or a small composer or a small production assistant and work on small things and kind of stay at a basic level. But to advance is really hard unless you kind of succumb to that machine. Like it is changing. Netflix has changed it. But to get a big movie like with millions of dollars behind it, you got to schmooze, you got to do the begging for money, the Weinstein stuff. I mean, that stuff sucks, but it is what it is. You know, it's great to be able to work on things like that. But you know, and you mentioned it like almost
I love Shia LaBeouf, by the way.
Oh, he's a real game changer.
He's actually if you watch his movies though, there is some brilliance there.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, we just now, 57 seconds ago, hit the 3-hour mark. So I think that's probably a great place to stop.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. Shout out to all
another round of like what we want to watch or going to watch.
Yeah.
Sure. We could end it. Yeah, we'll end it with one round of like recommendations, what we're watching. Thank everybody for showing up. You want to start Heidi or start Rebecca? One round of lightning round. What we're watching.
We talked about Tiger King earlier. It is a very, very interesting documentary series. Like the amount of time that went into it, 5 years. It's pretty masterfully done as like a filmmaking technique. Also recommend McMillions on HBO. Yeah, that's along the same vein, a little bit more of an Errol Morris feel to it, but yeah.
For me, it's going to be Outsiders, HBO. Make sure you check it out. You can watch the whole thing. But I love it from a music perspective, from a cinematography perspective. Check out The Outsiders for sure. Heidi, the last recommendation?
Oh, well, I'm watching Westworld for sure. It's amazing. Season 3 has been fantastic. Another show, we didn't mention it, but it's really, really good, is called The First. I think I might just do one season, which is too bad. I'm partway through it. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's with Sean Penn, and amazing acting. It's beautiful. and it's if anybody's into, I don't want to call it sci-fi, it's like space exploration type of thing. So that's my major recommendation. And what was the movie that I just watched? Oh, and I was saying Dr. Sleep. Really, really good, really fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Santavia. She's our first mod.
I know she's like founding member, helping with the name.
We love Octavia.
No, seriously, and you're right. Everybody, be safe. This was the Quaranstream. You know, we do joke and kind of make things, you know, kind of jokey and to cheer everybody up in this time, but it is a serious time. I hope everybody's being safe and continuing to wash their hands frequently and practice social distancing and take the recommendations of your local health officials and government officials very seriously. It was really nice to spend this time with you here in 2020 during these times. The cats want to say bye as well.
Hi, kitty.
Boy, that cat needs to go on a diet too, I think, Rebecca.
Oh, well,
I'm kidding. I love it.
Cat needs to get shaved big time, but yes.
Yeah. I'm kidding. Oh, it's big boned. I see. Okay.
And I hope you guys. Oh, sorry. I hope you guys.
Where's the other one? Where's the gray one?
She's over there.
She's sleeping. And the emergency toilet paper is ready. I did not get to tell you ladies about my trip in India where I had to use my hand and water. I got to tell you, an emergency, I'll be fine.
I heard that the days are like making a comeback.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't need paper. I'll leave it at that. But Heidi is prepared. But seriously, this was a fun one. Creatives Guild is a really cool project of our side project, but we all have our own individual stuff going on. You could follow Heidi at Costume Company, hit up Rebecca on Twitter. Actually, all three of us are on Twitter. Yeah. I do a lot of stuff on Twitter, and you could listen to my music all
John,
over the place.
We should start, maybe we could start a Creatives Guild Twitter account.
Yeah, I always love watching how we kind of grow organically. That would be a really cool next step. We are on Instagram. Rebecca runs the Instagram. You could follow us on Instagram, Creatives Guild. Yes. But yeah, we should do our own Twitter. We have a cool little crew here. It's nice.
And I think family. John, I was looking at our our YouTube channel, and John's been doing all the creative behind it.
Spruced it up a little bit.
It looks so beautiful, and he's responsible for doing our thumbnails, which are fantastic. And I was like, I love that like little illustration of me. I want to take it and maybe use it.
I could send it to you. I don't do those. That's my designer. I've had the same graphic designer since the beginning of my career. Elvis, I love him, and he's done everything for me, every website, every side project of mine. I love this guy. I've stuck with him for over 15 years.
One thing that I want to thank John for, because like my hair, when we initially started, my hair must have changed like 3 different times. and
the early thumbnails.
To redo that, my like avatar multiple times. I appreciate that.
We are a good team. I really love how we meshed together.
Although, like, I haven't done anything different, but my hair is it's really long. Like,
no, you stuck with this color for the last few.
Often show Heidi how long my hair.
And Rebecca is so shiny. Like it's like it looks like, I don't know. It's so shiny and lustrous. Yeah.
Well, that might just be like I washed it yesterday. Like, well,
no, it looks really. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And looks great with that hairstyle, like with your your 1920s headband.
Yeah.
I love that we're all buttering each other up. But
well, I love you guys. I just want you guys to know. So I'm so glad we've become friends and we've come to know each other. And maybe one day we'll meet in IRL.
I know.
Yeah, I know. We're thinking about some of these conventions, but who knows? They're all up in the air. I mean, I'm definitely planning on going to Con of Thrones. I don't know.
I don't know what Con of Thrones is doing just yet because they're a little bit later, but
their website says it's on.
Move to the weekend of Halloween.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So and that's a smaller con, but Tara and Chloe and everybody else who runs
Tara's great.
Con, all of you are amazing. They're like it is the most like DIY of the cons, and it's also the best con.
Tara's
so.
a fantastic musician too. No, I recommend everyone go to these cons. I'd love to meet everybody there. We'd love to have our own panel. You know, this Creatives Guild started with Game of Thrones season by season analysis. Like, I love our first 3 streams. We had some really cool information about that, but we're doing a lot of other stuff. So thank you everybody for supporting us. We love you all. We're all connected here during this pandemic, but be safe, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Stay tuned for the next Happy Quaranstream.
Happy Quaranstream. Peace.